We're going to start public testimony at this particular time. When I call your name, please come down to the podium. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. We have Michael Gold, followed by Catherine Rhodes and Conrad Hartwell, followed by Matthew Kalal, followed by D. Ann Robertson and Eric Brown. We'll do those 6, and then we'll follow on from there.
Hi, I'm actually the second person to go, but I'll go number 1. I'm passing you out a handout right here, and my name is Catherine Rhodes. I live at 371 San Fernando Street in Point Loma. I went to Patrick Henry High School. I'm a registered civil engineer in the state of California, and I have the opportunity to pretty much do whatever I want to do. So what I do is I pick projects that I want to work on in order to pretty much to inform people of good civic decisions. And one of the decisions that I think really should be made by the children of San Diego is this issue of the children's pool. So I'm going to just read a little of this. As you may be aware, the City of San Diego and the State of California have changed the 1931 Trust to allow Marine Mammal Park for the enjoyment and education benefits on children as an allowable use for the beach cove created by the breakwater children's pool. On October 6, 2009, the judge will decide if the 2000 court order to recreate a swimming pool is still in effect since we got the legislation passed with the help of Governor Schwarzenegger. Per the 1931 Trust, the breakwater wall and the beach was created for the children as a gift from San Diego philanthropist Ellen Browning Scripps. The area is owned by the citizens of the state of California, with the City of San Diego being the trustees. The children of San Diego cannot vote in general elections. Therefore, we would like the children of San Diego to have their votes heard on the La Jolla Children's Pool and Silverbrook issue through their public schools. If possible, we'd like to sponsor and pay whatever is needed for a plan to work with the school board and associated student body so that all children would be able to have their voice heard to the city council at the end of the school year. So this would be a long-term project that goes on until May, June, when decisions are made. The decision of the children's pool should be made of, by, and for the children of San Diego. We'd like to sponsor a website established by students to decide the issue of the sale rookery at the children's pool at the end of the school year. What do students want for the area? Should the sales be dispersed? Should the sale rookery be protected from harassment? What are the associated costs and benefits of each plan? So what we wanted to do is have information be compiled online and have an essay contest where we'll put up a prize and work with the different people in order to have essays be given to anybody. And of course, I don't want it to be like my little agenda, but I want this decision to be heard. And I would love if I could have somebody to follow up on this so that I could talk to you guys about it and see if we could make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Conrad Hartwell here? Okay. Matthew Kalal. How about Deanne Robinson? Okay. Andrew Bearden. Sally Smith. Jerry Horner. Anne-Marie Haney.
I'm Sally Smith. I live at 3551 Lord Street, San Diego. I'm here to talk about phantom classes that are hiding student workers. They're being used to help staff fill in for laid-off classified. These courses are not in the course catalog. They're not listed on articulation cards, and students don't request them. In 2004, the trustees eliminated office practice, office assistants, and peer tutors due to problems. It's been tried before and it didn't work. It was not quality instruction time. To circumvent the trustees' direction, staff devised phantom courses to keep using students as workers instead of properly placing them in classes. These courses are library practice and dynamics of peer counseling. They look good on paper, but that's not how it's happening out in the school sites. Students trust counselors and administrators, and parents trust counselors and administrators, and they don't question it. But the district what they see is the master schedule. In reality, we have classified staff supervising these students. As the budget worsens, this practice will increase unless Dr. Greer is given the latitude to ensure that all students are placed properly.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to the board. My name is Jerry Horna. I'm a docent with La Jolla Friends of the Seals. We're a nonprofit organization chartered with educating the public on seal behavior, and we also keep data on the seal births every year and the seals usage patterns of that beach.
Repeat your name, please.
Jerry Horna, Horna.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't put my name on this. Okay. Over the last several years, we have been contacted by different schools in the area, San Diego County, to provide classroom learning situations and also provide information to the youth as they visit the pool, Casa Beach, the Harbor Seal Colony that's there in La Jolla. And it's really what I'd like to ask you all to do is to adopt someone or nominate a liaison that I could work with, or that could work with La Jolla Friends of the Seals, so we could get a maybe more formalized program of the type of learning that we could provide to local schools. Like I said, what I've often done is go to the schools themselves, and it's sort of on an ad hoc basis. We'd like you all to agree that maybe a more formal relationship or some guidelines to the schools of how we could promote this learning atmosphere. You can see there's a lot of different opportunities for learning there, and really our focus is on providing information to the children, not biased information, basically factual information. And you can see that there's a whole slew of opportunities for the children to learn. One of the things I think would be great, too, would be to actually have some student-led outreach programs where different student groups could coordinate within the school district. So, again, I'll give you my contact information. My name is Jerry Horna, and I'll write that down and give you my phone number. But if you could put me in touch with the liaison so that we could interact at that level instead of just with the local teacher ad hoc level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Jackson, Vice President Brera, Board of Education, and Superintendent Greer. My name is Andrew Bearden, and I'm the Director of Music at Morris High School. Today I began my third year at Morris High School with over 150 choir students, 20 orchestra students, and over 60 band students. When I began at Morris 3 years ago, the program had just over 100 students in 3 classes and no band. The program has swelled over 100% to include marching band and drumline. We now have a full-time program with 250 students, and we plan to continue growing year after year. You may remember when the marching band played for the board last spring, and I'd like to thank President Jackson for both inviting us to perform and for passing the hat after we left and collect some money for our uniforms. We appreciate that. The success of my program is a testament to the talent and dedication that the musicians of Morris High School possess. And it stands to reason that a program with this amount of growth and excellence deserves a performance space to meet its needs. I'm here tonight along with my colleague Matt Kalal from Patrick Henry to discuss the necessity for an auditorium to be constructed at both of our campuses. Morris and Patrick Henry are the only 2 high schools in the district without auditoriums. What we do have are outdated, impractical, and unsafe elementary school-styled cafetoriums and crumbling, non-powered, non-compliant outdoor amphitheaters. Performing in a cafetorium is sort of like the New York Yankees playing a Major League Baseball game at a T-ball field. The inadequate size of the facility alone severely limits how many people can perform and attend. And on most occasions, I'm sure it probably exceeds fire code capacity. Grade level meetings must be conducted during multiple periods along the day, causing valuable class time to be taken away. The acoustics make performing groups sound like they're singing or playing their instrument in the shower. And on more than one occasion, the lights have actually overheated and shut off during a concert, leaving the students to either perform in the dark or go home. We also lose money performing in a cafetorium or amphitheater, money we don't have. Last year, I spent nearly $2,000 at our final concert hiring out sound, lighting, security, and power generator companies so that we could perform. With an auditorium, we would be generating funds by having a larger capacity for ticket buyers and maybe by renting out the facility to community organizations. Members of the board, the funds are out there. President Jackson, I respectfully ask you, what are you willing to do to give the students the educational facilities they deserve at Morris High School? Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Jackson, Board of Education, and Superintendent Greer. I'm Matthew Kalal, Instrumental Music Director at Patrick Henry High School, and here with my colleague, Andrew Bearden from Morris High School. Andrew Bearden and I have discovered that we have extremely similar, deplorable educational facilities that are used for performances, school assemblies, and community meetings. Neither school has an actual auditorium, as you know. While other schools are upgrading their auditoriums, Morris and Patrick Henry don't even have auditoriums to upgrade. Both campuses have been denied these basic facilities for 40 to 45 years. Currently, there are no funds from Pop S allocations to build an auditorium at either school. They are included in each site's long-range facilities master plan to be wishfully built on a fantasy in about 15 to 20 years. The current stalling tactic is to say that these will be built with the next proposition that comes in about a decade or so. But the reality is that the facilities and stadiums that were upgraded under Prop MM and then again under Prop S will be upgraded once again in the future proposition. Or other aged buildings that are becoming hazards will have to be fixed. Unless this board makes a decision to build these two needed educational facilities using money that is truly available now, these auditoriums will never be built. Money can come from unallocated Prop S funds, state school facilities fund, or a combination of both. This board has a chance to positively impact the lives of 5,000 current students and tens of thousands of future students with two facilities that will give them pride in what they have at their campuses instead of shame and humiliation. I look forward to the board working together to solve this egregious oversight and seeing this as an agenda item for the next board meeting. The students at both schools deserve something better than the equivalent of a t-ball field. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Anne Marie Haney from the Community Council for Music in the Schools. I would like to add to the very specific and cogent presentation that these two wonderful young men have made, having built incredible, successful, musically satisfying ensembles at their schools and attracted more students each year. What we need to remember is that in a performance, we aren't just there to listen to notes and to see if the children got the notes on the right beat. The music is lost when you're not in a facility with proper acoustics. So if you're in a cafetorium or outside, you may have a wonderful opportunity to hear the percussion section and all the drums and maybe some trumpets, but you're missing the whole balance of the ensemble, and that is an injustice to the musicality and the accomplishments of these students, and certainly a loss to both them and to all who are listening. So I hope you will take heart to what you have heard today and make it happen. It's very important. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, a student want to speak. Yes.
My name is Aaron Bronco. I'm the ASB president at Patrick Henry High School. And just to follow up on what Mr. Kalal said, when we have such things as plays and improv shows at our school, we go into this small room that we have for that's set up, and only about 50 people can attend, and it's real small, it's real hot, and it gets very uncomfortable in there. And I actually went to a show for something called Bel Cantos, which is sort of a choir at our school, and they had to perform in the outdoor auditorium, and we could barely hear them from where they were because just the acoustics of it weren't very good. And near the end of the performance, which was around 7 or 8, they actually had to bring 2 cars to show their headlights, so we would have lights for the show. And it would just be very nice to have like an auditorium where we can go just any time and have a good performance, and that's just from a student point of view.
Thank you. Mrs. Wood, would anybody else want to speak? Any additional speakers? Okay, thank you. Mr. Beck.
Well, I guess I have the history. I'm going to turn this on so everybody can hear it. Is it on? Yeah. For years, I've always supported the concept that we have standards for the facilities of high schools. But I have to give you the background on why this condition exists. At the time Patrick Henry and Morse were built, the district was centralizing the arts, and SCPA was the place where they put all their arts money. And it was a whole facility was wrapped around constructing a center for performing arts, which included music and all kinds of performing arts. So with that emphasis at that time, when the construction came forward, and I wasn't here then, believe it or not, but I was a district employee, when that construction came forward, those priorities were recognized in the construction of those 2 schools. But as we've gone down the years, people have recognized, for the pressures of many people, that the arts are very, very strongly academic, and they may not be necessary to concentrate them in one place. In fact, you'll find schools like Point Loma High and Hoover and La Jolla and Patrick Henry have all started different versions of what they can do with their own facilities. So then we need a sea change, perhaps, in the board's philosophy about whether or not we're going to concentrate the arts in one school or whether we're going to spread it around. That's why the situation is in place the way it is. There was actually a conscious view on the part of school boards at that time, in the early 50s and later, partially 60s, that they were going to concentrate their construction around the arts at SCPA, and it was supported considerably by all parts of the community. It wasn't like it was a brand new idea. That it was basically saying, well, we've had some theater here and theater there, but we believe that this is so important we're going to build a special facility for it. So then you got what you got. Okay. But if you look at, I'm going to go one step more. If this was always on the wish list for the last 2 bond issues, and I've been here watching this process of setting priorities for the bond issues, Prop MM and Prop S, in neither case did the schools list it at their highest priority.
Okay.
Either of these schools.
Ms. Nakamura, please.
That doesn't mean I don't want them.
Yeah, I think the presentations were both really well done, and that the student was particularly, as usual, really effective. I think that's made a really good argument for why. But, it really isn't about just the arts. It's about an auditorium where parents and community members and students and teachers can gather. It's much broader than just performing arts, and I would hate to see the conversation narrowed to that. But it's about an auditorium for both of these schools, where you're not sitting around on kitchen chairs essentially to have a conversation, or a group where students can come, for example, to possibly hear the Obama speech today. It would have been great to have had an entire place where the school could gather, not in its entirety, but perhaps select classes for that type of event. There isn't anything at these 2 schools, and these 2 schools were built during the 60s, where people were doing experimental things in architecture, and it's as though these schools have been caught in a time warp, and it's never been corrected as we've gone on to build other schools, as we've gone on to improve other schools. These schools have trudged on with these facilities, and they have asked, it has been brought up, that these would be, that this would be considered, but they've not. it's easy to get your voice lost in this district. It's easy for people not to hear you, and this happens to be an important issue for both of these schools, for Morse and for Patrick Henry. So I'd like to thank the people for coming down and speaking today, and I would hope that the board would consider. We're going to be talking about facilities and overarching facilities. Was that the plan? I thought we were supposed to be doing that in September.
That discussion, yes.
When? In September?
We'll continue that discussion. We started at September 1st, and I think we'll have it scheduled again with.
Okay, because this is a matter of some urgency. So.
Okay, thank you very much. We'd like to have colors. We're going to call this meeting today to order. Getting into position.
Mark time. March. Order. Cut. Left. Face. Carry. Cut. Colors. Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry. Cut. Order. Cut. Right. Face. Trail. Cut. Forward. March. Left. Left. Left.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Jackson, President of the Board. I would like to welcome all present today and call the September 8th, 2009 regular meeting to order with all board members present. You may have noticed the new interactive display in our lobby. It is a hands-on kiosk with a touchscreen that shows real time and how much electricity San Diego Unified has generated for that day from our solar panels located at 28 schools. I understand representatives out there from our physical plant operations to answer any questions for the next couple of hours. As you may have heard last year when we were doing our budget deliberations, we are trying to trim our use of our power sources here, so that is part of our goal to do that. We hope the discussions and decisions you hear today will give you a better understanding and appreciation of an important part that you play in setting the course of education in Unified School District. Agendas for today's meeting are available at both entryways to the auditorium, at the informational desk located near the press table, and the internet on www.sandy.net. It is also broadcast on ITV and live webcast. We are using Board Docs, the web-based program, to enhance governance, reduce the amount of paperwork we generate, and provide for better communication with the public. Okay. Reduce paperwork, huh? Okay, I'm sorry. The board requests that those individuals with pagers and cell phones please turn them off or place them on a silent mode in the auditorium, and that during the meeting, please enter and exit the auditorium by using the door at the back or the door to my left in front of the press table. The board asks your cooperation in complying with the fire code, which does not allow standing in the back of the room or in aisles. We would ask that everyone be seated, and they have today. Thank you. The board welcomes your comments in writing and during public testimony. Public testimony requests are located at the tables to my right inside the front and back entrances to the auditorium. The board asks that speakers focus their comments on issues and not on individuals. Acceptance of public testimony requests will be closed as each agenda item is called and our discussion begins. The board members and the superintendent are interested in your comments, and staff will respond to your issues that we hear today. If you wish to address the board today and your name is not on the blue sheet, and you have not submitted a request form, please complete the form and submit it to Ms. Ward. Speaker on agenda items will be called to speak on the discussion of agenda item. Agenda item testimony is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent and or action item, allowing for 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint and a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral of time is allowed. Non-agenda item testimony was heard at 5 p.m. will also be heard at the end of the meeting. Testimony is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes per item and 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral of time is allowed. The board operates under Robert Rules of Order, which confer upon the governing body and the audience participation in proceeding in a civil and courteous manner. And now that school is back in session, we have our AESB representatives who will please introduce themselves to us and tell us a little bit about yourself and what your schools are doing on the very first day. Thank you.
Again, my name is Aaron Bronco. I'm from Patrick Henry. Today was actually a really exciting day for us. The new lunches that they're bringing to the schools were out, and the lines for the grill that they had there were just packed. And just all lunch, people kept going back to get more of it, and I think people really liked it. And today was a really exciting day at lunch. Other than that,
same old thing.
Okay.
Hey, good man. That's all right. Hey, first we get the lunches right, then the rest.
All right. I think the kids had a good day, and they're excited for the rest of the year. Thank you.
All right. My name is Levan Dini, and I'm ASB president of Crawford. Crawford is a small school, so I'm from IDEA, which is Invention Design Educational Academy. And just like Aaron said, congratulations to food service. The food was a hit. Everybody looked alert fourth period today after lunch, so that's good. I think we're just getting ready to everybody's trying to get in the mode of school and the habit of waking up early, and just trying to get everybody to come on time, and attendance is always the thing to do. So I think that's what we're working on, and I just welcome back rallies and trying to get spirit back into the school.
Okay, thank you both, and welcome to our meeting this evening. Please feel free, if you want to speak, to wave your hand at me, and we'll let you comment on something. Okay, first item up is C, report of closed session actions and superintendent information report. Dr. Greer.
Thank you, President Jackson. Tonight in closed session, the board approved Sean Lochester as Director of School to Career, Gloria Chavez as Human Resource Officer, Labor Relations, Rebecca Philpott as Program Manager for Dropout Prevention, and Jody Bondurant-Strong as Program Manager of Special Education. In terms of superintendent report, Madam President, I've been a school superintendent for probably too long. But this is absolutely the first time I've ever had two high school students come to a school board meeting and praise the food in our cafeterias. So Gary Patel and Dew Rollins and wherever you guys are, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, James, and all the rest of you guys for coming together this summer and doing something special. I think this also says volumes about the importance of listening to and empowering others, particularly our young people. And last year, when we were looking at expanding our cafeteria program to serve more children and to generate additional revenue, going to students and listening to their ideas about how to elongate, not only maybe stretch that period some, but also to do food testing and to get feedback for them, I think is very important. I'm very proud and pleased that this has turned out so well. On a side note, we believe that our high school cafeteria service, the increased participation, will also result in the employment of an additional 115 cafeteria workers. So in a tight economy, I think that's another side benefit, a consequence that we did not anticipate that we think is very positive. So I wanted to say again, thank you. Also, would be glad and pleased to announce to the board that we've had the smoothest opening of school today of any time since I've been in this business. And I'd like to say a particular thank you to our classified staff. Our schools were absolutely sparkling clean. Our buses, for the most part, we had a little hitch in times because of traffic, that we had construction going on. But as far as I know, we didn't lose a student today. It was really a fantastic opening of school. And I want to say congratulations to our principals, our teachers, to our central staff, but particularly to our classified staff for a job very, very well done. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, we're also going to thank you, Superintendent Greer. We're going to ask that Bernie Reinerson come up and show us our new district website.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the public, and all our staff and public who are watching, this is an exciting evening because we have been working all summer long to renovate and upgrade the district's website. And as you all know, that's our main way to communicate with our staff, our parents, our students, the community, is our website. And we've struggled for many years here in this district with a website with an older technology that required hard coding in the back end. It was hard to update it. And we have a website today, and Jack, if you could just bring up our old website on the screen, that we've made some improvements on, but it is literally huge, outdated, thousands and thousands of pages. And before I show you our new website, I want to thank my team that worked on this and the team from IT, because there were long hours in making this transition. You don't know, I didn't realize until we got into it how big this website was and how much information is there. And we had to come up with a new design, a new organizational system, and move all the stuff from this website to the new website that I'm going to show you. So I want to thank Linda Zintz, our interim communications director. I want to thank Jeff Smith, our webmaster, Daryl. They're back in the back room broadcasting your meeting right now. And all of our team in the communications department, and Daryl Lagasse and his team who worked on it. We worked all weekend long making sure that we could launch this. So tomorrow, this is the website that we're going to be launching. Jack, if you could flip, oh, maybe I'm doing that. If I can see the arrow. There it is. And I'm hoping that this mouse will work. Otherwise, I'm going to have Jack do it. There it goes. So, as you see, our new logo is there. I'm going to click on this and see if it will launch it. And there it's animated to create the star. And then it comes up, every student is a star, because that's what we're all about here at the district, is making stars out of our students, and that's what our logo represents. Across the top, there's a navigation system that is our district. Each channel is a color. There's one for parents, students, staff, community, and Board of Education, and I'm going to show you each of those. But this is our homepage. Easy to navigate, some shortcuts here that we can go to, and a video, which will be changing frequently, and I'm wondering if the audio will work on this. And it doesn't, but that is a video about the food service on Channel 6. And I'm just going to pause that. So we'll be putting up a video there. Headlines. Here on the side is a calendar, and I want to talk a bit about the new calendar, and a tab here for announcements, and under that tab we have our H1N1 information. And back here, this calendar will change all of the time, but we finally have a website with a master calendar. Mrs. Nakamura, something that you and I have talked about frequently, but you'll see here, you can see everything that's going on at San Diego Unified every day. And here's a legend, which we color code the events. And if we want to just go to one event, you click on it, and it will come up to whatever that event is. I think it's the Audit and Finance Committee. But you'll be able to, the public and anyone else will be able to go here and see what's going on all over our district. I'll talk about individual school sites in a moment, but each school will have their own website and be able to have this calendar function. So if I go back to our homepage here and show you a few things. Each one of these channels has a drop-down menu. And now we have organizational charts. So the public will be able to go here and see for each chief officer and their department what their organizational chart. It comes up to the chart for the district. But let's say I want to go to my department, district relations, and there's the organizational chart for my department. Administration. We have directories, and let's go to school administrators, and it's a principal directory. And let's say I want to see all of our elementary schools and who are the principals for those, and I'll hit submit, and it lists all of our elementary principals. We're still working on this. We're getting photos, but it's a great way to find out who the principals are. And if you want to know what are the departments in the district, here's a comprehensive directory of every department in the district. And let's just pick one, and I'll show you. I'm not going to show the Board of Education, but we go to athletics, and there's a page for athletics for that department. So that's a directory, very easy for the public to learn. Our schools. Well, let's look at our schools directory. We now have a directory of all of our schools. And let's say I want to look at our elementary schools. Just click there, and there's every one of our elementary schools' address and phone number. You can type in a school name, and you'll find the school. Student learning.
You can also, Bernie, click on what we're embedding in this. We aren't quite there yet, but we're getting there. You'll be able to click on that school's name. It'll take you straight to the school website, which will have a template. Right. And we're getting there.
Right. We're getting there. That'll be the next thing.
That's going to be the second generation.
So we have employment. We have our news page, which our communications department will be doing. And but I'm going to go back to our home page, and these pictures that are up here. I like to say that every picture tells a story. Now these rotate. There's 3 pictures that are rotating. But if I click on the picture, there it is, our photo news, and every picture tells a story, and you'll be able to find out what our pictures are every time. Now, that's the district channel, but I want to show you the Board of Education channel, and as you see, if I click on Board of Education, it changes to a purple channel, and it animates again, and each board member, we have rotating pictures for you. And each board member can have their own page and put up your own information. I happen to click on John's because I did something special for him. I added a page. We have the schools in your nominating district, your bio, but John, I took the liberty of putting up a bit of news, and this was your article that was printed in the San Diego Union, and you can click there and go to the article that John did. Now, each one of you will have the ability to add pages here. There's a blog feature that you can actually communicate with your constituents and have discussions with your constituents online, and we'll be training you how to do that, and you can add as many pages here as you want.
Probably let you do a Twitter there as well.
Right. So here's the channel, board policies. We have all the board policies up there, your committees, and meetings, and we link to board docs here. Then we have a tab for students, and as you see, this then changes to a yellow channel, and under each one we have information that students might want to know. And here's back to school information for parents, back to school 2009. We have information that parents might want to know, policies, and then we have a tab for students, and we really want to build this into being more of a resource for our students.
One of the things we're doing with the student site too is we are creating a web page or a site called Student Scholarships, and it will show every scholarship that's available to all students here in San Diego Unified. It will also show all scholarships available in all California colleges and universities. And it will provide parents and students with information about how you actually apply for scholarships. And you can go online and click on a scholarship and apply for that scholarship online.
And that'll be over here in resources for our student government members here. We have Associated Student Body, and we'll be working with Leonard Thompson to be adding more information about student government. And we have a staff area. This is going to eventually become a login where staff can sign in up here at the top of the page, and they can log in, and we'll be able to have this part of the website only visible to staff when they log in. Right now, it's the way our current website works, but we'll be doing login, and Daryl will talk about that in a minute. But all of our staff information is there, and we have a tab for our community, and our partnerships, educational partnerships, and our volunteer, and you'll be talking about that tonight. And as you see back on our front page, we have our Facebook, our Twitter sites, but you'll be talking about volunteerism in a bit, and here's all of our information on volunteering. Now I'd like to invite Daryl Lagasse to come up and talk to you a little bit about how we're going to transition this website to our schools, and he'll give you a little bit of information about professional development. This will go live tomorrow. We're not there yet. We still have lots of work, but I would say about 80% of the content is up there. Some of it will be still on the old site, and when you click on things, you'll be going back to old pages. But we've moved about 80% of the content, so it's ready to go tomorrow. So, Daryl, if you could give us a little background on where we go from here.
Sure. So first steps are to get to the schools that don't have websites. We have about 50 schools that have been waiting for this to get released and to get the infrastructure installed and put in place. So that's the group of schools we're going to work with next to actually get them put into the new system. There are schools that have websites that are on our current system within the district. Those schools will work on transitioning next. And then we have a group of schools that actually pays outside companies to host their website. That group of schools will kind of work on last. We feel like we need to make sure we match everything feature for feature for those schools, and we want to learn with the schools ahead of that first. We also know that those schools are up and running right now, and we don't want to interrupt the important job that site does for them. Yes?
Will there be a link to their old sites for now?
There will be a link. That directory that Bernie showed you.
Once they have migrated, then that won't be.
Yeah, the directory that he showed you will have a link to wherever their site is currently if they have one.
Thank you.
And then as far as professional development goes, over the next 2 months, we'll be training departments on how to maintain their sites. But I did want to show you one thing, because this is quite a bit different than asking us to have a website where we submit everything to the communications department to get posted. Actually, users will be trained on something as simple as signing in. It's actually tied back to the district's login information. Yeah, it is. It's just the numlock was on. Oh, yeah, I've got 2 passwords in here. Hold on, guys. I got a couple of passwords in, yeah. Okay, and so what you see is I've signed in now because it says something up here called sign out, but I just want to show you how easy it is for a department to update the information on their site. So I'm just going to go down to departments here, and I'm going to scroll down to information technology. All right, let's see. Yeah, there we go. And then these are all the pages that are under information technology, but if I go to our overview page, this looks just like a word processor essentially, and all I have to do is go down here, and if I want to change something like the phone number, I can actually put a different number there, hit save, and it's now published to the website. It's that simple.
You're now dead.
So that's the kind of that's the change we've made. It's no longer you need to know how to program in HTML or need to know these complicated web editing programs. It's all done online in a Web 2.0 environment.
Okay.
So tomorrow morning, we'll be working to change over tonight. So tomorrow morning, the public and staff will then see our new site with our new look, and we'll be continuing over the rest of this year and into next year with starting to train departments so that they can take responsibility. What this will do is the information on our website will be fresher and better information, because it's hard for when people have to go through the communications department, they don't keep it fresh. And so they'll be able to do that. We'll be training each department and keeping it updated. We'll be working with your offices so that we can help you communicate with your constituents more through these new tools. So any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Sure.
Mr. DeBeck.
Control freak asked first question. I've asked the superintendent, what about somebody logging in and then changing something without authorization, and apparently there's some protection for that.
Yes.
So a department can't have just any employee go in and change what's said.
No, we will have the administrative control. Departments will designate who it is, and
then the question is, should someone who is authorized put in something in the web page about their department that is not clearly board policy?
Right.
How do we find that out unless we just wait until we have complaints, or is there somebody that screens all the new additions to the websites?
One of the responsibilities that our communications department will have is we'll know anytime the website changes.
Okay, so then you'll monitor
We'll go and review that and monitor it. So as the website administrator, our department will know anytime anybody goes in, and
so
we'll be spot checking to make sure that's it. Yeah. All right.
And departments are only able to edit their sites.
Okay.
They can't edit the whole site.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
So I want to thank the board for your foresight and your support for technology in the district. This is all part of what this board has been supporting, is transforming this district to a high-tech district that communicates with the public with the best technology. And we appreciate that support, and we're going to demonstrate to you that this will work really well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda for tonight. Motion second, please.
Second.
Please vote. Agenda passes 5-0. The next is the board consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull one of these items from the consent agenda? If not, I have a motion.
I would like to pull, discuss briefly EO5.
Okay. Second, all of them.
All except EO5. Anyone else? Okay, I have a motion for EO5. Can I get a second?
No, I thought we were doing them all.
He wants EO5. He asked to pull
through EO5.
He asked to pull EO5 for the discussion.
Otherwise, it's a consent agenda.
Okay, then I didn't second that, but okay.
So I move to approve 1 through 4.
Okay.
Second.
John? Second, okay.
Second that,
Please
yeah.
vote. Okay. That passes 5-0. Dr. Evans, quickly.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment briefly on item EO5, which is the recognition of 2009-2010 as the year of the school volunteer. This was approved by the Board of Education on July 28, 2009, and we want this to be a really big deal, not just something that we are doing symbolically. And I was very happy to see when they were showing us the new technology on the calendar that on the first day of school, it listed at 9:05 this morning was the volunteer fair at Dingman Elementary School. So obviously people are getting on board very quickly. And one thing I just want to highlight, there are many ways that people can volunteer in the schools and enhance student success. But one particularly we want to emphasize is adults reading with children. And this can be adults reading to the children or following along with the children as they're reading. This does not require a degree or a credential, but it's individual adult attention which can help dramatically improve the reading in our district. I met with a group of volunteers from Oasis Intergenerational Tutors. They're doing an excellent job. They provide training, and a lot of people can get involved in this, so I really hope that we're able to do that this year. In addition to being the Year of the School Volunteer, we are designating October 9th as the kickoff day to really place a big emphasis on this. So look forward to more information on that, and we'll use the website to keep you posted.
A motion, please.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, EO5 passes unanimously. Move on to F. L41 is informational items. Mr. DeBeck?
Pass.
Mr. Barrera?
No, just very quickly, I just want to say thank you to everybody in our school district community, our students, our parents, our teachers, classified staff, principals, central office staff, for first of all, just the extraordinary job that you did through the end of the last school year, the 2008-2009 school year. We faced a real crisis with our budget situation that's ongoing, but people were able to just, in the midst of a lot of negativity and a lot of noise, stay focused, record test scores, just an amazing job in getting through the last school year. And then it's just exciting to hear about what a great kickoff we've had today. Special thanks to the Food Services Department and to Daryl and to Stewart's Shop for taking on the challenge of getting our lunch process up and going. So just terrific job to everybody, and look forward to another great school year.
Yeah, it's hard to have the baton pass you and then not echo everything he just said. That it's going to be a very exciting year. I think the new website, the new school meals, all of there are just efforts across the school district, despite everything that we've been through, that really, shows the importance and value of human capital. It is the people in this school district that make the difference, right down to those two instrumental music teachers coming down to the podium and bringing something to our attention of a need in their schools. But people's voices, their effort, all focused together and moving towards an end result. The school, the school year is coming off to a great start, and I'd like to give a lot of appreciation also to Superintendent Greer for that and his leadership over the last 18 months. Everything's in flux right at the moment, but I know that so much of this could not have happened without his leadership in this area, and I want to express my appreciation for that and for the incredible leadership team that he's developed here at the Ed Center, right down to every teacher in the classroom, person pushing a broom in the schools and keeping our schools in great order. That face that you see when you walk into the office in the morning at every single school that helps bring everyone together. Thank you to everyone. It's going to be a good school year, and all of your creativity and ingenuity are really needed this year, so let's stick together.
Okay, ditto to a great first day of school and also to great communication systems. I know when I've been meeting with my community groups, one of the things they've asked for is a better way to have information about meetings and to communicate with the Board of Education, so that's going to be greatly enhanced to increase our community involvement in the schools. Mira Mesa High School had its first football game last Friday on their new football field, which was done in time for the school year thanks to the good work by our facilities staff. I had a meeting last weekend with parents from University City who are working on improving the schools in their neighborhood, and we're very interested in what's going on in the district and how we're carrying forward in our new initiatives this year. And also had a meeting last week with parents and teachers and community members from in the Claremont area. And one of the things we talked about there was there are a lot of ways they want to improve the schools in their neighborhood, but another thing they want to do is really to get out the word about some really good things that are already happening in their schools that people aren't aware of. So I think the website and a lot of other communication things are going to make a big difference in our community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and ditto to all of those responses that were mentioned earlier. We're going to take up item FO2 right now, is agreement with the Aspen Group International. Motion? Second. Any comments? Okay.
Yes,
vote.
I have comments. On this particular item, when we discussed it last time, we talked about negotiating a reduced contract. We were looking at a $160,000 contract. I was looking at significantly reducing it over the course of the year, and then at even mid-year reviewing that. But what happened is we ended up with a contract that is about the same amount. It's just that it goes for half a year and then to be renewed the second half. I think that what we need to do is when we meet with the consultants on September 15th is really get clear on exactly what level of services we want during the coming year, and then the staff can negotiate what the proper contract at that point. But I think that it's just a little bit too blank to say we're going to continue on the services at the present level. So my suggestion is that we table this and meet with them next week, pay for their services next week, and then make a decision after that.
You have to vote.
Any other comments? Please vote.
Right, that wasn't a motion.
I know. That passes 4-1. The next item, tentative agreement with CSEA paraeducators.
Move approval.
Motion.
Actually, we could cluster, I think.
You want to do FO?
Yeah, why don't we just do the next 3?
4, and 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
We have a first and a second.
Okay, please vote.
Okay.
Okay. They were first readings? Okay.
We're just giving it.
They're just first reading.
Okay.
It's moral support.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
But
Cheryl.
we can vote again. Okay. That passes 5-0.
We're okay, right?
Okay, please. Well, did you already show it? Okay. Okay. You erased some X. Okay, I saw that erasing part.
So what are we doing?
We need to vote on that, please, again.
1 through 3.
No, it's item number 3, FO3.
Only 3 is the only one that
It's the
requires
only one's
a
for
vote.
action, and the other 2 are first readings.
Ms. Jackson is
So can we get a
exercising
motion?
an abundance of caution here. So
Okay.
moved.
Okay, second. And okay, right, please vote. Thank you. That passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I see a finger in the air. Okay, thank you very much. We move on to the G items. GO1 is consideration for Evangeline Roberts Institute of Learning.
I move to approve.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Okay. Any speakers? I'm
Was there
sorry.
staff recommendation to approve?
Staff's recommendation to approve.
They do.
Okay, staff. Okay. We have one speaker, Celia Walker.
On the same topic?
Yeah.
On the same topic.
Then we don't need a vote. I'll take my vote back. Until I hear what she's got to say. Excuse me.
Well, first of all, my name is Celia Walker, and I'm a board member for the Evangeline Roberts Institute of Learning. I just want to say thank you, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Greer. I'm just here to just express our thanks for you hearing us again in reference to our matter. We have worked with the district consistently in terms of making all the improvements that were asked of, and it should be reflected in your report. And I just want to say thank you, and we hope for a positive approval. Thanks.
All right.
Now we can
have a
vote.
motion and a second. Any more comments? Please vote. That passes 5-0. Congratulations. The next item that we have is GO2, which is 2009 Standard Testing and Reporting Start Testing and the high school exit exam. Dr. Greer.
Thank you, President Jackson. Chuck Morris is going to review this with us this evening, and Ron Rohde is also here. Chuck?
Madam President, Vice President Barrera, members of the board, it's exciting to come before you tonight, and I actually wish that we were in the Qualcomm Stadium with 10,000 teachers out there and principals and classified personnel and presenting this and handing them all out a gold star, because what we're going to report tonight, I think, is just some of the most exciting news that I've seen in a district in a long time. We're not going to go through a lengthy presentation, but I did want to point out that our test results this year were phenomenal in regards to the fact that we actually in every area made more progress this year than we had in the previous 3 years combined in all of those areas, which is rather significant. I will tell you that as we go through this, there were things that contributed to it, and I think we need to point that out. Number one, it starts with that teacher in the classroom who works with those children, who is focused and who understands that instructional strategies that they have to use for that child to make progress. This year, between the use of data director, our instructional leadership teams at the schools, they were able to focus in on those areas of instruction that were important to our children, and that brought results. I compliment them because that was the primary emphasis this year, and not on instructional strategies that we are talking about implementing for this coming year. So all of this was done based on the fact that people were focused on the work and they had some of the tools to do it. So we just have to congratulate our schools, our staffs, because it would not have happened without them. But let's move on. I think it's important to note, and I don't have the... I'm not good at doing this. There we go. There we go. We actually tested 89,451 students. You can see some of that break down in terms of 75% were non-whites, 61% were economically disadvantaged, 29% were English learners, and 11% were special ed. The results you see are for our combined results from 2005 to 2009 in terms of English language arts and mathematics. Point out to you that from 2008 2009 we had a percentage increase of proficiency by 5%, and also in mathematics an increase of 4%. Rather dramatic when you look at what had been happening in the years before. English language arts, I think you can see the kinds of results that were improved and went up over the grade levels. I will point out, in the interest of transparency, and I think it's important because we need to know that if you start looking at 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, those scores were higher, and some of that was due to the fact that other students were pulled out and giving an alternative testing. Now, what I point that out for, because I think it's important to look at where it didn't happen, and that was 2nd grade, which got a 7 percentage point increase. So even though the state had a different way of measuring and testing, starting in 2nd grade, our schools got a 7-point increase. That is significant in terms of a true increase in terms of the academic performance of our students. So I think you can see that all across the board, we did extremely well in terms of increases. As you see in grade 9, 10, and 11, and in the middle grades, we tend to not do as well. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we're going to do in regards to looking at that and making some changes. I know Dr. Greer is ready to say something.
I've decided not to. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Okay.
English language arts, compared to California, we actually had a 2% increase and are now above the California average, which I think we can be proud of in terms of our scores. Mathematics, again, I think we need to take a across-the-board look at what happened to my math. In mathematics, you saw the increases there. Some of those were not quite as high as English language arts. The issues that we need to point out is you start looking again at middle school through high school, we begin to see a steady climb in terms of our math scores. Now, what you're seeing at the high school and you're seeing at the middle school is that our students are getting into those grades and they don't have the numeracy skills in order to do the higher level math. You're also talking about conceptual issues in terms of math. One of the things that, because of what you did in the spring, we have introduced an entirely new set of math books at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that we believe will make a significant difference in terms of how our children are taught math, but also what will happen as they go into high school, because it's a conceptually based program that will allow them to understand about what they are learning. The example I want to use, if I were to ask you a negative plus a negative, a negative times a negative equals what? You would all say a positive, and I'd ask you why. Well, if it was like me, I'd say, well, that's the rule, and that's what I know. And most of us went through school learning the rules. What we know about children who are not as proficient in math, they can't just learn the rules. They've got to be able to understand the concepts behind it so they can begin to work through that process. So we're beginning to believe that we're going to see a turnaround just in the fact that we're going to be using a new math program at the middle school level.
And I will speak to this just real quickly. This is unacceptable. And it's just unacceptable. And there's no other way to say it. We've got a lot of work to do here. And we have to take a hard look at what type of training that we have available for math teachers. And most of you know I sent you a copy of a research study not long ago about the value of master's degrees. And mathematics is one of those areas where we need to think about how we could work with some of our business leaders, some of our nonprofits, and we need to really work on that.
And to correspond to that, this summer we did late, I will have to tell you, work with the university to begin to open up a program with the university. We did offer to our teachers. We did not get a lot of volunteers, but it was so late in the year because of budgets and everything else. But we will be doing that again this next summer in terms of increasing those mathematics skills. So Dr. Greer is absolutely right.
Are we going to wait till the whole thing?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, because this is a significant one that needs more discussion.
We will discuss it when he finishes the presentation, please.
Right.
Thank
then
you.
We'll have to bring it back.
Mathematics, you can see that we reached the state average in terms of math this year. That is the first time we have actually equaled the state average in mathematics. Science, we have 7-point increase in science. Increase across the district, that's significant. Had one of the largest increases in the entire state. History and social studies, you can see, was 6 percentage points. So what we're trying to point out to you, not only did we have those gains in our English language arts, in mathematics, we also had them in science and social studies. So the district's on the right path. We're doing the right things, and we need to continue to do that. More importantly, we need to keep adding tools to our teachers' toolbox so that when they have things that they need to pull out, that they have them available and they can get those tools. Casey, the news is not quite as good in the fact that in the literacy we had fewer students who were proficient. We went from 50 to 49%. In math, we did have an increase of 6%, so we can be very proud of that. But overall, we only had a 2% increase in terms of Casey pass rate. This is something that we ought to be looking at closely because we ought to be doing much better than this. Between doing pre-Casey, we now, through APEX, have pre-Casey work that our students can be doing. They can be doing it at home. They can be doing it at school. So we're taking a much harder look in terms of what we're doing to get the students ready for Casey. The last slide is so what's next, and I guess part of that is just to let you know some of the things we're doing. We're actually going through and culling through all of the data right now. And Ron has, and he'll be the man that'll answer the questions. We're actually looking at the schools in terms of who had the most progress. We're looking at schools who had and closed the gap the most. One of the things that Ron and I looked at is we looked at who closed the gap. But what we found in some cases, the gap was closed on paper, but it brought one group down and raised the other group, so it wasn't a true close. So we're actually going in and looking at those schools that find out what they did. And we've talked with Granita and Sid in terms of their meetings with the principals and their instructional leadership teams. And we're actually going to bring those schools in. You don't need to go outside of a district to find schools that have closed the gap when you've got schools in this district that have done that in an exemplary manner. So we're going to ask them to bring their folks in and share exactly what they're doing. We've got models in this district that we can emulate and that our folks can learn from. So we're identifying what our schools are doing. We're identifying those schools that have weaknesses, and then we're working with those principals and those staffs to be able to help them to figure out what those are. More importantly is what they think that they need to do to get those scores up. So it is a study that we're doing across the district in terms of what we have done with these test scores. And I tried to do that as quickly as possible, so if I talk too fast, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, board members, first round, Mr. DeBeck, I know you want to be first.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. It helps a lot in some of the questions you kind of alluded to, but one of the first ones I came up with is that these data are district-wide data and not individualized by schools. Some schools obviously would bring this up. Some schools may, for some reason, not be doing well enough, and the results are not there. So for every average, there's an up and a low, or section, and this is the mean, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. The real issue is, do we know what each school's doing? And then following that would be, I don't want to go into the accountability or blame game. Are we celebrating those schools that are doing well? This data doesn't tell me what schools, are doing well. And I think one of the things that should come out of this is we should say, one of the schools, or these 5 schools, or these 10 schools, are the exemplary schools that may have brought up these results. Because the assumption would be that all schools are the same, but they're not. So that's my first comment. I don't know how you get at this, but the truth is we don't want to tell. I don't think we want to make a big thing about those schools that need help. We ought to be helping them, but we don't need to make it publicly known. But those schools that are doing real well need to be celebrated so the community knows that they've got a good program in that school. And if there are some schools that aren't on the list, they're somewhere between being celebrated and not being celebrated. But I'd rather do that. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if you look at the math, and you may want to put that slide on page 6 back, I don't care. You'll see, and I really agree with the fact that this proves anything about master's degrees, because if you look at the decline, it starts in grade 5. And from grade 5, 6 through 7, the odds are that the middle school and those 2 teachers that are in there don't have master's degrees in mathematics. They may have master's degrees, but not in mathematics. So that I think we need to look at those schools that are in grades 5, 6, and 7, especially that are doing well, and see what it is there. Is it that they have all teachers that have math majors? Is it that they have a different strategy or not? Because it's clear to me that it starts before algebra. It's when you're teaching the pre-algebra concepts that we start falling apart. Right. Pre-algebra starts in grade 5. You're in fractions, you're in decimals, you're in relationships between numbers that are proportions and stuff like that are basically where it all falls apart.
Okay, Mr. DeBake said the thoughts for the next time. Dr. Evans, and Mrs. Nakamura, and then Mr. Barrera.
Okay, thank you. One thing just want to clarify as far as with if you would be able to give us a follow-up report. I know you said you're going to start investigating doing this, and so if you could tell us, when that would be, because I think it's just really important, just like we had this one today, to come just as formally to come back and say this is what we found out.
Yep, we're in the process right now breaking out every school. I mean, we've done that. It's a rather large task, and Ron is working in that process, and I think should be complete within probably another week or 2.
Easily, yes.
Easily. But you will get a score on every school. You will see what those differences look like, because it's important, just like Mr. DeBeck said, we've got to look at all of that to determine where are those schools that need help. Also in terms of the celebration, because again, I'm going to go back, it's not only celebrating these schools, it's saying to you, you all know how to do it right, you need to share. One of the things that we have a hard time doing in education is sharing our successes. It's unlike other places. So one of the things that we will do is come back to you, and we will let you know those high flyers. And we'll also show you those schools that even in the midst of some rather major issues within their schools continue to rise up and continue to do well. And we have some of those schools in the district also.
And also, we have posted individual school reports on the website, so they have results for the past 5 years. So similar to what you can see for the district as a whole, you can see performance by school, by grade level as well. So those are on our research and reporting website. I can help you get to those later if you want.
Right, and besides dissecting that, I just again want to echo everybody else saying that these are really great results, and it really does need to be celebrated. I wish we could look at this type of graphs for funding and other things for our public education. And I guess the other thing would be, in terms of when you're looking at the numbers, I'd hope that you would look at the changes in each school versus just the comparison between schools, because we're looking again at the growth model for individuals, also for schools, to show who is really improving, rather than just ranking this school's doing great and this school's doing poorly. Thanks.
So it's going down steadily, you know something.
Okay. Bravo, really. This is to the entire district and all of the teachers that made such a difference in raising these scores. It's been observed that, these scores are, still low, but I don't think I've had a year in the district where we have seen English language arts increase at every grade level, and, mathematics increase at every grade level. that is really phenomenal and terribly important. And I also look forward to seeing the school-by-school report when it comes out. I do know it's a lot of work, but it's also really important as we get started in the school year. More important for the schools to have that than for us, really. Although I think that the board today made an important step forward. We sat down in the morning and talked about goals and where we were, particularly the SMART goals that the district has been focused on. In the last year, we focused on literacy, numeracy, and the dropout rate. And those 3 SMART goals, I think, are reflected in this. I hope that work is continuing forward. I want to echo the concern about mathematics. The issue. A different report talked about the dropouts in California, where you could see a report. It was online, and what struck me, and I've spoken about it several times, is the fact that of our students who drop out in high school, 40% of them drop out in the 10th grade. 40% of those kids drop out in the 10th grade, which means 9th grade was absolutely miserable. And I would guess that the reason 9th grade was absolutely miserable was because we didn't do what we needed to do for them in the 7th and 8th grade. And Mr. DeBeck would say actually the 5th grade forward, particularly in mathematics. So these numbers matter, and I think San Diego should take note of their importance. But more importantly, this board should. And I think we will, based on this morning's conversation. We're listening more carefully than I think we have in the past.
Yeah, Chuck, could you talk a little bit about the jump in the science scores in particular? What kind of strategies were we using to?
And I only know this from a distance, so don't hold me to every detail. One of the things that happened within the last couple of years is we had a strong science department, and they introduced the FOSS kits. There was a strong emphasis on professional development and working with the teachers in terms of more hands-on materials. So I think we can attribute it, and it's my opinion, is anytime you can have students engaged, then you're going to have students learning. And where we fall off is when our students are not engaged, and so they aren't learning. So we really have developed a more hands-on science program all the way up and down our curriculum. So I think that's the tribute. Plus, our teachers. I mean, our teachers came to the staff development. I mean, they wanted it. They yearned for it, and so then they went back and implemented it. So I think it's just a concerted effort in the district to do something.
We think it's one of the better hands-on math programs in large city schools in the science in the country. But one of the things that we want to be able to do a better job with here is when we implement those kinds of training programs is being able to do a program evaluation, to be able to tie what we've done back to the classroom. But I know when I first got here, being a former biology teacher and meeting with the folks, and I'm a little worried about this, and I've said this to Chuck, is we've downsized the central staff. We don't have as many of those science people that work down here that help do the training for those teachers that we've had in the past. That worries me.
Okay. And sorry, President Jackson, I also just wanted to get your sense, Chuck, if you've got any about the jump in literacy in 2nd grade. Do you have a sense of kind of what was happening there?
We all have heard about the units of inquiry. We've heard people complain about them. We've heard a lot of different things. I would say to you, I think that one of the things they did is they focused that instruction in the 2nd grade. It's so interesting because you all heard last year, well, the units of inquiry are just, they're too much work. We don't want to use them. You probably know we said at one point in time, well, you don't have to use them. They're voluntary. What we're getting this year is we're getting teachers and schools going, we need more of the units. The other ones got lost, and planning on using them because they did see some value. I think the other thing that's helped, and we'll give this to you in a different report. We actually did a analysis. As soon as CSTs came in, I said to Ron, I need you to do an analysis on the benchmarks in terms of their predictability for CSTs, because I think our schools were using the benchmarks as a way of saying, yes, our kids are doing well. Well, you don't know that until you get those results. What we got in English language arts was about an 84% overall match between the benchmarks. So it meant that the teachers were taking the benchmarks, looking at what the kids didn't know, and saying, okay, we've got to work on this, and then the next benchmark seeing that go up. So I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but I think a lot of it was data director, which allowed them to pull out information and to analyze it. I think the instructional leadership teams, who consist of teachers in that school by grade level, working together to figure out what do we have to do differently at the grade levels in order to be successful, and then implementing that instruction. It's I had a principal in the audience, and I won't name him, but she just said to me rather kiddingly one time, and I can't use the word she used, she said, "We got the message about accountability." She said, maybe she'll tell you what she said, but she said we got the message about accountability. So I think a lot of it was just focusing and knowing that that's what was important, but also the kind of support that we were able to give to the schools. I think, and I guess what I'm feeling right now is our teachers are excited. They were successful last year. They know they can be successful this year. You add the technology that's going on. One of the things that we did all last spring is we met in terms of teams for response to intervention, which is a way of determining a basic philosophical base for how you do instruction. And our folks came together and they talked about interventions at a second level and interventions at a third level. And this was a group of teachers and principals and central office staff saying, these are the things we want to do district-wide. So for me, it was the fact that we're all in this together, and it is a team. Terry's often talked a lot about Team San Diego, but I personally do feel like it was a team effort. I'm probably talking too much.
Okay, then we'll do a second round. Okay.
All right, I'm looking at science. And Ron, you're here. I know that they test at grades 5, 8, and 10. I know that the report shows grades 2 through 11 combined, which that couldn't be. Because if they tested 5, 8, and 10, then it couldn't be 2 through 11 combined. It has to be grades 5 through 10 combined, right? That's picky. I'm not going to worry about that. But the thing that really interests me is this. This is a composite of 3 scores. For example, if you look at 2009, the red 49 is a composite of the results of the grade 5, the grade 8, and the grade 10 results. Yes. But I would say that it's significant to know how they look at grade 5, how they look at grade 8, and how they look at grade 10. And the reason is because I think that you're going to find that one of those grade levels peaked the scores, and I'm going to guess grade 8. Because there's more kids in grade 8 taking science generally than there is in elementary grades. So what I need, that's a hypothetical. I'm an action researcher. I'll figure it out. You can give me the real results. The thing is, I'd like to see this disaggregated so I could see that at the end of grade 5, which I think is toward the end of elementary school, whether or not there are kids that are at proficiency or above. I'd like to see the same for grade 8, and I'd like to see the same for grade 10. Now, science, in this case, happens to be life science. Maybe we should label it that. Like that, it's not chemistry, it's life science. It's not physical science, it is life sciences, because that's what they're measuring. Right. So then, instead of saying science, I'd rather say what kind of science it really is. So 2 suggestions. One, I'd like to see this disaggregated by the composite that make the results. Even though it's not every grade, I still like to see those grades that are significantly measured, because they chose them for a reason.
The results that we gave you in our full report had the grade level disaggregations. What we presented tonight was just a summary, so we didn't give you those grade level, but indeed they are in the full report. And also, with each of these grades, they are required to test every student at that grade level. So all 5th graders, all 8th graders.
I want to follow this up with one more statement that has to do with all this. in the past, I've seen these reports and I have some comments to make about them, but the one thing that I fault staff about the most, it's not you personally, it's not the previous people, is tell us what they mean. Tell us what the scores mean. What is the implications, for example, of score? Like, what does it mean when I see the math scores go zoom down and they start zooming down at grade 5 and they accelerate pretty fast? What does staff believe that means? I'm a layperson, or maybe I am, or maybe I'm not. I'm a former school employee and a teacher, and I have my own statistics that I've taken. That doesn't mean I can't have some professional look at the results and interpret the results for the board. We can brag about our scores went up. Tell me why.
Mr. DeBeck, thank you. Dr. Evans, please.
Well, I am pretty much echoing what Mr. DeBeck was saying about the why, and I know we're putting you on the spot and saying, why do you think this is? And I would really like to have a very thoroughly researched scientific approach to this. Because one of the things when we look at the statistics, we can see, for example, in the English language arts, that it's gone up a couple of points each year and then went up 5 points this year. So there has been a trend in terms of gradual increase, and it's just very easy. I mean, when people in the community have asked me, about the changes, and whether it's credited to a particular school board, to a superintendent, to what's going on in the curriculum office, and all I can say is, well, the teachers and the staff are doing a good job in working with the students. But I would like to just see a really clearly drawn, as much as you can, cause-effect in terms of looking at what's happened both this year and in the previous years to really come up with some good answers about what's working. And I think also, as been mentioned before, just by the breaking it down between the schools, the growth model, all that will help. But a really good analysis of this, because it might be something completely different than any of us are thinking right now that's made the difference.
Right. I'd like to say just momentarily, though, and I'll come back to it in a minute, is that I think you're having trouble with what they're saying is sharing your success. I think we have a problem with sharing our success in education. Someone said a few minutes ago. So we just want to know how you did it. Dr. Greer, I'm going to grab it back from you once you finish.
Well, I went out last week and had lunch and breakfast. Thank you, Gary Patel, and thank you to a number of foundations in the community who paid for it. But I kind of went out and had a lunch with an elementary, middle, and high school who really did very well, scored 20-plus point improvement. And it's interesting. I find it fascinating that you guys want to know why. And because when I talked to them, I heard the same thing at all three places. What I heard was what you've heard. You have a board that set goals. Now, you may think that that's not a good starting point. That is the starting point. You had a central office that reorganized and provided a lot of support to our principals. We had a selection process where we picked very good principals. We empowered parents, we empowered teachers at the school who sat down and used data for the very first time in a systematic way in this district to look at how kids were doing in their schools. I heard this from teachers. The teachers talked about how they sat down with data directory and looked at each individual student, where that student was, and what they had to do to improve. They talked about at Edison Elementary School, the teachers talked about a principal that said, and the principal said to me, Dr. Greer, last year when you met with the principals, you told us you were going to hold us accountable for being in the classroom 60% of the time. And the school improvement officers did that. I spent 60% of my time in my classroom. I taught model lessons for my teachers. And the teachers were raving about their principal and the principal's leadership, which was fantastic in our schools. I think Chuck is right. It's hard work. It's not magic. It's not a particular program. It's hard work. It is focus. It's quality teaching going on in our classrooms. And where we had that happening, we had 15, 18, 20-point gains. You'll see in some schools where we didn't. And you go back and analyze that, and what you will see in most cases is where we have a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas. We want schools to learn from each other this year, and you heard Chuck talk about pairing up a school that's doing real well with a similar school demographically that perhaps did not. But a lot of this is, again, being focused, using data,
teachers working together. I was surprised to hear a high school like Kearney IB, International Business High School, talk about how math and science teachers taught literacy skills in their classrooms. It's teachers doing quality work that's relevant to kids, and it's also about good, strong relationships in those schools. That's how.
Ms. Nakamura, did you have
you know, we touched on this in the first round a little bit, but talking about someone said that our teachers in the middle school grades don't have a master's degree in mathematics. I doubt they even have a BA in mathematics, by and large. I know that's something that we struggle with tremendously. Have we done any analysis? I know that Dr. Greer has in previous school districts that he's been in. But what's the relationship to our teachers' background and the degrees that they're holding?
Yeah, personnel has done, and I don't have that data in front of me. We have done an analysis of the math people teaching math at the middle school level. And to be quite frank with you, most of them, in fact, the vast majority of them, do not have a math background. You know, what we know about mathematics is, especially in many cases, the elementary and middle school level, is we ask teachers to teach something, and especially at the elementary level, and many elementary teachers don't feel comfortable teaching math. At the middle school level, they may have the knowledge about how to teach. They don't have the content area knowledge in terms of what they're supposed to be teaching. Then when you get to the high school, and this is my personal experience as a high school student, my math teacher stood up there, and I give you a personal story, in geometry, and said, we're going to talk about loci. Well, I will have to tell you, at the end of that particular 6 weeks, my dad had a conversation with me about loci. He thought I ought to understand that because he understood it. I never did understand it. I don't understand it today because math majors also understand math in a different way than a lot of us understand math. So you have a breakdown in terms of teachers' knowledge versus what they think students ought to be able to do, and then also content. So what we have to focus in on, how do we give the teachers the tools and to be able to do that and to reach those students. Again, it's about engagement. We've got to figure out how do we engage those students in the classroom, because that's what's going to make a difference, especially now. You and I grew up in a time when we could go into a classroom and sit there for 45 minutes or 60 and we were okay. Our kids don't live like that now. They got something constantly going on in their hands for the better part of a day. So they've got to be doing something, some activity, and the best way to do that is to engage them in a way that they're using their hands, using their mind, and reaching our culture.
Great. Are you through?
I am finished, but I think the student wants to
please
speak. Aaron, excuse me.
I just wanted to say real quick that it sounds like you have all the information and like all the statistics and things, but if you can like synthesize it between maybe comparing Patrick Henry and Crawford, there's going to be like a big difference, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like all the schools. Like you probably know what's going on with like the median schools, but maybe compare like the schools with higher test results with poor test results, and just when you synthesize the right like variables, I guess you could say, things become more apparent, and maybe you can figure out like maybe it's the teachers or something to do with the students. And I just think you say you have all the statistics in the other report, but if you synthesize them correctly, and you can find like a better cause, I think.
Right. You need a job, don't you? We can hire you.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, the next item is GO3, agreement with Northwest Evaluation Association. Motion? Second. Any discussion?
No.
Do we have speakers on this item? Oh, we do. Okay, before we vote, we have some public speakers. We have two. We have Elizabeth Nagy, Katie Anderson.
Disconnect the votes.
And Esther O.
At least mine.
Clear it.
Please come forth and speak, please.
Good evening, President Jackson and fellow board members. My name is Esther Mugbengi. I'm Principal Horace Mann Middle School. And I just want to say as that this year we're no longer the lowest performing middle school in the district. We actually beat 3 other middle schools, so we're ecstatic.
Congratulations to you. Thank you. Go ahead, Esther. Okay.
And are we celebrating? Yes, we are. We know we still have a lot of work to do, but we're working on it. I am here today to speak in support of the MAPS program. The MAPS program is designed to provide relevant, rigorous instructional targets to help accelerate student learning. The program is actually closely aligned to the California State Standards, which is one of the reasons we adopted it at Jackson Elementary School. The students take a pretest that provides a Lexile entry level for both students and teacher. The teacher establishes this as the baseline and uses it for instructional and assessment as they go forward. The teacher is then given a plethora of strategies that can be utilized to improve instructional practice. The design, implementation, and opportunities to maximize instruction in the classroom as a result of the data gathered from MAPS is incredible. Data is gathered 3 times a year at the minimum, and when we utilize the program at Jackson again, we saw increased gains. You will agree with me that when it pertains to student learning, there isn't one silver bullet. It ensures equity. That's the MAPS program, ensures equity in instructional delivery and practice. We must continue to explore and to utilize all options and the range of opportunities available to us as we seek to continue to accelerate student learning and close the achievement gap. So I am speaking in support of the MAPS program. It can only help, it cannot hurt.
I concur.
And who are you?
I'm Michael Dodson. I'm the principal at Bell Middle School.
Thank you, Michael. That's when the board knew who you were. Okay, Katie Anderson. Okay, no comment. And Elizabeth? They're not here. Okay, please vote.
Just one question.
I'm sorry, what question?
I think this is all really great, and I support it. And I see it's up to 42 schools, and I think it's also great that certain schools start and others want to jump on afterwards. I'm just curious, what was the procedure for getting these 42 schools involved, or did they volunteer, or how did that work?
Actually, we started last year bringing the company in to demonstrate MAPS, and we invited principals and teachers in to look at it. Part of a process we went through in the spring were interventions, testings, and assessment in terms of what do we need to do. And the schools you have before you all specifically ask for this to come before you.
And Chuck, doesn't this mean that there's seven tests that we're currently giving that we will not have to give?
The schools will be able to eliminate all of the tests at their school with the exception of those required by the state. The other thing that's great about this, especially at the middle school, also the elementary, is it also allows the teachers to use the data they get in a format that means that they're going to save a tremendous amount of work on the learning contract. That's a big load off of the teachers, because now that will all be done for them to be able to talk. The other thing that it does that I think is just important is part of your mission, as you have said, you want every student to make 1 year's worth of progress. We don't have a way to measure that. With MAPS, we can measure that. This is not only an assessment for those students who are not performing, it's also an assessment for those students who are, and you set goals so that they continue to perform and to grow within that. So it's the schools want to do it. They've asked to do it, and be frank with you, I think it's going to be one of the best things that we've seen in the district.
I just want to reiterate that I think that's really great. I mean, the way that you're rolling it out in terms of showing it to a lot of schools, taking the people who are most enthusiastic and putting it in their hands, and the others can kind of follow suit. I think it's an excellent plan.
It's also being used and has been used for a number of years in Poway. So there's a lot of research in the local area about people that have used it and use it successfully.
I just want to add one thing. There's something also really key about this system, that when students are taking the test, it actually will adjust based on how they're responding in that test. So it truly challenges kids at all levels during the test so that we can get the most data back. It's not like giving a standard test to all the students.
It doesn't have a testing ceiling. It basically can let them reach beyond what would be grade level expectations and go beyond.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing, and I don't think I heard it from the superintendent, but I think we need to repeat it. How many tests that teachers currently give will this replace? And I know it's at the option of the school, but its potential is to eliminate, I heard 7, maybe more.
Depending on grade level, that's
sure.
correct.
So that means that when individual teachers or a group of teachers complain about the added workload, this basically is taking away that testing and giving them more instructional time.
This is all online.
Well, but the time it takes is another question. Does it take more time than current testing or not?
No.
All right. That's important because, see, one of the complaints would be around testing is that testing interferes with instructional time. So therefore, if this then would say our conventional testing, 7 different tests, requires administration time, passing out the papers, doing all this stuff, and then it's in aggregate data also, then this is faster, more informational, student-based, and one last thing, I guess the parents get it?
Yes. They actually...
So there's comparative data for them compared to other students, but not by name.
Yeah, they actually get a contract, the student and the parents, that said you're at this particular level, these are the things you need to work on, and this is where you need to be at the end of the year.
Well, I think those people that are doing it know what they're talking about.
Right. They do.
Again, thank you. And any more comments, please vote. That passes 5-0. In our questions that we were asked, you can see the schools and the grade levels that are participating. And I want to thank the staff for responding to all the questions that they received. I know it was a short turnaround for those questions, but thank you for getting the answers to
But they're going to all be complaining they don't have it now.
That's good. Okay. We move on to H. The first item under H is approval of the fiscal year 2008-9 unaudited actual financial report. Superintendent Greer.
Thank you. James Macias is here tonight. We're seeking board approval of the fiscal year 2008-09 unaudited actual financial reports in our standardized account code structure. Basically, it shows a total of general fund in balance of $160.6 million, which compared to the 08-09 adjusted beginning balance of $119.8 million. So that shows a surplus of $40.8 million, which we simply rolled forward and was our beginning balance for the coming year. And James will be glad to answer any questions that you might have. If there's no questions, we simply need a...
There's no technical way. I mean, I've been around a long time. When you get into this format, I can't ask you questions because the truth of the matter is I need a kind of graphic presentation of what you're talking about. You know, I'm pretty simple and I don't need a whole lot of numbers to confuse me. What I need is what's the bottom line. And if the bottom line is that we have an ending balance of so much, or projected ending balance, and it's reasonably accurate by history, that I'm okay with that.
Gotcha.
But, I'm not going to nitpick all through the numbers. How can I?
And quite frankly, we don't tend to go through all the numbers with you. We just simply, I think Mr. Beck said it well, where our books are audited every year by an external auditor. FICMAT's been in the district now for about 3 months, on and off.
5 months.
5 months, and they're very good with these numbers. So we need your approval, and would be glad to answer any questions if you had any.
All right, well...
I think, Mr. DeBeck, the bottom line number for you would be on slide 3 that's posted right now. If you look at the 6/23/09 projections, that's what was board approved on the 23rd back in June. We forecasted an ending balance of $134 million. That got you to line 13, which is a $27 million surplus, based on a lot of actions that took place between now and between June 30th and about 5 days ago. Those numbers have adjusted to the ending balance of about $160 million. And I've got line-by-line reconciliations if you need to see that in a narrative format as well besides the numbers. In the bottom line, what it gets to is we've got about a positive $37.5 million surplus. That's column 4, line 13. Okay, and it's due to a number of factors. One factor is the fact that we got in 2008-9 revenue to us from the state of California of about $24 million. That was unexpected in what they were trying to do. They did it last minute on June 30th as a last minute action. Well, the way they're fixing that, because they couldn't pull the money back in time for all school districts across the state, is they're giving us a one-time ADA reduction of between $28 to $30 million.
Okay. One more little piece, if you don't mind. Okay, I'm looking at a form that you submitted here, which has got some stuff that looks interesting to me, and I think that we might all benefit from it. It's a third of the PDF files that you gave us. It says, percent of current cost of education expended for classroom instruction. When CBEDs come out, when the results come out to compare us with other districts, then I think that may be a significant number. It says right now on this that we pay for classroom compensation 60.69 or 61% of our budget. Okay? Now then, if that's something that, as a board member, I'd like to look at in comparison with other districts that I'm competing with.
Sure.
I think that's an important thing. It's not the millions it is. Okay, now I go down to excess program revenues. Must spend 90% of revenues on direct instructional and documented support costs. A positive number here indicates that less than 90% was spent, subjecting the next apportionment to reduction. It's a negative number of $1,680,000. That's a significant number too, because what it means is we were off by a lot, and we overexpended out of the income for this year by this amount.
No, that's not correct.
Well, then what does it mean?
Essentially, which form are you looking at, Mr. DeBeck?
Okay,
Is it the SACS report?
Let's see. Well, it's the first page of financial reports, form
and I'll bring Ken up on that.
3768338. It's a third of the PDF files on our
it's the line excess program revenues 1.68.
And it says under day, it says the forms DAY, excess program revenues. Okay, and under that it says a negative $1,006,000.
Yeah, what's the answer to it?
What's that mean?
That's the encroachment. The community aid program does not generate enough revenue. The state does not fund it at the appropriate levels for the service we provide.
So therefore we're subsidizing by $1.6 million.
In general fund unrestricted.
Okay, so does that have a significance for us in terms of our future budgets? I think so.
Well, unless they can actually make the revenues match expenses, then in 9-10 and going forward, they would essentially we'd have to continue to provide those dollars in general fund unrestricted. Unless that changes on the revenue side by that program, that means GFU, general fund unrestricted, has to keep offsetting with at least $1.6 million.
So we're lawfully required to spend that money in excess over what we
That's what the program is expended.
Well, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
See, that's part of the stuff that I look for exceptions. Yeah. When you inundate me with numbers like this, the first thing I look out for is the different things that stand out. That why. Okay, and then that would be what I'd like to have talk about. Not just, the report's fine, send it to the state. That's it. Sure, I'll vote for it. I just did.
Yes. I'm still trying to get this on the ending balance of $134 million that was projected as the year-end balance, and then we came up with the unaudited was $160 million. And you said there were various things that happened during that time period that made it go up. And then, of course, my instant assumption, of just following on with what you were saying, was okay, we have $26 million more for this year, but I just want to make sure I understood. But you said that was because the state gave us about $30 million more that they were taking back?
I said the bottom. Mr. DeBeck wanted to have a bottom line number, and that bottom line number was going from column 2, row 13, $27.8 million. That's essentially what we projected to have as a surplus for our general fund unrestricted, based on all the actions that took place between essentially June 23rd through the end of the fiscal year and the past 60 days that we've done to clean up our fiscal year 08-09 and close it out. One component of the additional $37.5 million is the fact that we got in another $24 million of revenue in fiscal year 08-09.
Right.
The important concept there is to remember that in 9-10 they take that money away from us based on the one-time ADA reduction of about $30 million.
So they gave us $24 million extra, and they're taking away $30 million.
That's correct.
Sounds about right.
Okay, and so that's $6 million under. That would reduce this $37 million by $6 million.
I don't understand the question.
Okay,
sorry.
well, okay. You said that. I'm trying to get this straight. There was a $24 million figure.
So look at it this way. What we ended up doing is we spent less in expenses. Right. So we spent less in expenses, and we also in fiscal year 08-09 we had an increase of revenue that they gave to us at the end of the fiscal year for fiscal year 08-09.
And that was the $24 million, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the revenue increase was $24 million.
Right.
The subsequent difference between projected expenses and actual expenses was about $17 million. As you look through the following slides, and I also have 4 pages of very high level detail or very detailed explanations on all the puts and takes for every item if you'd like to see that. I didn't give it to Cheryl because I thought it would be too much information.
Right.
So the bottom line that Mr. DeBeck asked for was what's going to happen to us with the $37.5 million. I just want to make sure we're clear that next year, this fiscal year 9-10, that essentially gets taken away by $30 million at least because of that ADA revenue reduction.
Okay, and so there's $30 million taken away for the ADA revenue reduction,
right,
which was decided when?
Our revenue was going to be at a certain level. That gets reduced by $30 million.
When was that?
They did that July 28th.
So that's been in this intervening period.
When the state adopted the budget on July 28th, that was just one of the actions that took place.
So basically, in really rough terms, that's how you're saying that the surplus that we have is being canceled out by this new reduction.
When you look at column 2, line 13, the $27 million, and then you move that over to essentially column 4, row 13, you see it's 37.5 as the delta.
Right.
Well, in reality, we have the 27 that's going to sit with our ending balance, but the differential of the plus 37 gets taken away by the 30.7, 28 to 30 million.
Right.
So that 37 million there as, quote, extra really goes away in this fiscal year 9-10 because they're reducing our revenue limit reductions by about $250 per ADA.
Okay, so the good news was we found some extra money, and the bad news was they took that much away.
We spent less than planned, essentially, is what happened.
Because if we hadn't, we would have been in an even deeper hole.
Could have been over, yes.
Yeah.
Well, one more piece, if you don't mind. All right, I don't care. Do it.
No, it's just these are. It's been a tough year, I guess, in just looking at these numbers. So, this is the way we spent our money.
Right.
Right. So, where are we compared to last year?
Well, that's where we're actually in 08-09. You mean, are you talking 07-08?
Yeah.
I don't have that information in front of me. I can get that for you if you want, but I don't have that tonight.
Because I just would like to take a look at it.
That's one of the reports that is almost finished based on Dr. Greer. He recommended that one of the reports we build in the Fiscal Insight tool is year over year. So,
right.
Yeah, well, I don't have that today, but based on the completion of Fiscal Insight, the tool, the application, I'll be able to get that to you.
Okay, because I don't think this really demonstrates the havoc that we went through last year. I mean, it is completely. And, I think the coming year is going to be very difficult. I mean, the outlook looks more promising for the nation. It sounds like it's starting to sound a little more rosy, but in California, it seems to be, not quite as strong. So,
And just so you know, I know we all get frustrated with the numbers moving around, but I just here while I was waiting for my turn to come up, Monica sent me an email, and Bernie, about the QEIA funding.
Yeah.
They're still trying to play around with that number. So what they've also done in QEIA funding for 9-10 is about $3.8 million or so. They want to essentially give to the district, but that will only be applicable to 7 to 10 of our schools. In reality, they took away $4 million of revenue from all of our schools.
Exactly.
They're giving it back into QEIA money, but it's only applicable to the 7 to 10 schools. So what we've been working with Monica on is to say, how do you fix that? And instead of backfilling with school improvement block grant money, that's very restricted, how do you essentially backfill it with general fund unrestricted dollars? So that was she just sent this email to me at 5:07.
Well, I know our unaudited actuals, just like we do our audited actuals in December?
Yeah, when we get the first interim in December,
That's
we'll have
when
the
we get our
results of
audited
the
actuals back. But this
of
is
the
a good
audited actuals.
projection of how we said we were going to spend our money and how we actually spent it, at
Right.
least unaudited. But I just don't think it's as bad. It just doesn't capture how much this ship is sinking, financially. I mean, it's remarkable, the increase in test scores and, the differences that we've made. I think in communications and everything else, we're being much more effective. But I'm concerned that as we go into this next year, people are not going to really be prepared for just exactly how tough it is, how hurt we really are, and how we need to advocate for our schools. So, okay, thank you for the moment.
James, when do you anticipate being able to give us our first 09-010 budget versus actuals report?
Yeah, what I'm doing is I thought I was going to finish the memo on Friday, but I just didn't get it done.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it. It's about 8 pages now. I'm trying to streamline it because it was about 15. But what I'm doing is walking the board and Dr. Greer essentially through all the actions that took place from the 6/23 board date. So, for example, on June 23rd, we approved column 2. Rows 1 through 13, and then also during that meeting, you approved about $85 million worth of reductions. If we cut $85 million worth of reductions in the 10-11 year, we thought we would solve most of the problem in 11-12. If your memory goes back to on that presentation, it was about $64 million to solve essentially 10-11. We said $85 million will get you there because of the compounding effect. Well, we actually implemented those results, not included here because this is unaudited actuals that we're talking about right now. And so what I've done in a memo format is provided you essentially from the June 23rd date to what I call the June 25th date, meaning that's all the reductions we made. It turns out being about, just bear with me for a quick second. In order to balance 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, it was $84,196,289. That was the exact dollar amount that we reduced out in those two out
Again,
years.
what was it?
$84,196,289. Remember we said $85 million? Okay.
So that's a little bit of what we were just talking about before the board meeting about sort of the impact on the 10, 11, 11.
Right.
The question that I was asking, though, was more about for the 9-10 budget, which we've approved.
Right.
Our goal is to, as often as possible, get budget versus actuals. How are we doing, with the budget that we've approved for 9-10? And I saw in the letter that we got from the county, which more or less, accepted
they approved the budget.
Approved our budget.
August 14th.
One of the things that they mentioned in there is that we owe them monthly budget versus actual reports.
That's what we sent to them. Essentially, you approve a monthly versus actual report. Matter of fact, it's in here. It's under one of the line items. That information gets approved by you folks and it gets sent to the county office as well.
Well, but I think this is a question that we've been asking since before we approve the budget is because we know that in the process in the spring our numbers kept changing, and a lot of the reason that our projections kept changing is because when we compared budget to actuals, the numbers were changing. So I'm trying to get a sense of early on in this year. How often and when do you think we could anticipate getting our first? Here's our 9-10 budget.
Gotcha.
Here's our actuals.
Right. So, like I said, this memo that I'm finishing up on, which I should be done by Wednesday, that'll take us through essentially the 23rd. It'll take us through the $84 million reductions that we took. It'll take us through the budget adoption, the county accepting our budget for 9-10 and the out-year projections.
Yeah.
It'll also take us through the July 28th state-adopted budget and the impacts that has happened to us because of the state-impacted budget. And then the FCMAT data, and then we'll incorporate, if approved, the unaudited actuals. So essentially we'll show you step-by-step financial schedule by financial schedule, all the puts and takes from the 23rd through essentially September through tonight.
Okay. But I might be asking my question wrong. I'm not talking about the 0809.
Monthly.
Yeah.
You'll get that information from us monthly.
Monthly.
Right.
Okay.
So in order for us to find out where we are from a 9-10 perspective,
right.
Yeah, the nice thing about the automated tool that we've got, that we're essentially almost finished implementing, that will provide us the ability to show all of our revenue and all the expenses and see where we match up or where we disconnect.
Okay.
The other thing that it'll show us is that we're building an integration piece from our internal internal tools. So we'll go PeopleSoft, Fiscal Insight tool, results-based budgeting, but we're also building an integration tool between our Fiscal Insight tool and FICMAT's Budget Explorer. What Budget Explorer does for us is that allows us to take all of our information in our general ledger, put it into the Budget Explorer tool, and then show our out-year projections.
Okay.
So what we could be able to do is essentially on a monthly basis, we could essentially upload that information into Budget Explorer, and you'd be able to see where we think we are in this 9-10 fiscal year. You'd also be able to see 10, 11, 11, 12, based on assumptions on those 2 out years that we build into.
That'd be great. And when do you think we might be able to see the first?
The Fiscal Insight tool, that should be done in about 15 days. Actually, we're going to try to finish it Friday and Saturday this week, but I'll have to check with Amy on the integration between our PeopleSoft Fiscal Insight and Budget Explorer, which is really a FICMAT design tool. But the person that did the FICMAT design tool for the Budget Explorer is the same person that's done the work for the Fiscal Insight tool. So all that really is orientating how we might have some of our resource codes from our general ledger into the Budget Explorer tool.
So by our September 29th meeting, might we get a budget?
I would say October.
Year-to-date by our October meeting.
But what I will provide for you, though, is I'll provide a similar schedule like that shows you, based on all the actions we've taken through September 9th, what that means for us.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, let's just pursue that last point. If you have a budgeted versus actuals, and you use that as a management tool, what's going to happen is every month you're going to see that we still have a budget that we haven't met yet. I mean, that we're not, it's not going to, till we get to June, and then if we hit June, we still got to worry about what's encumbered that we haven't already reported. So, I'm talking about it as a management tool. The budget versus actuals will always be a positive thing because you'll never look like you're in trouble. Because what will happen is you haven't put in the proportional amount that should have been spent that month of the budget.
I think, Mr. DeBeck, a difference that we're doing this year instead of versus last year and years prior is that we've actually have monthly financial meetings that we're meeting with each.
I'm not talking about the meetings. I'm talking about the data.
Yeah, that information, though, that we get back, we'll populate that into our PeopleSoft projected general ledger. So we'll be able to pull that information out of our PeopleSoft system to say it no longer will be just, you have a fourth of a year, so you run rate 3/4 of the year. It'll actually be operationalized based on the input that we receive from the department and division chiefs, and then we'll take that data, put that information into PeopleSoft projected general ledger.
Okay, but the red flag for me would be, for example, it could be just as bad if somebody didn't spend the money as if they spent too much. Because looking at my experience in the schools, basically what we've done for years is we basically had 2 things that we used to trick everybody. One is we had positions that we budgeted that we didn't fill, and therefore we never cut checks, therefore we always ended up with a surplus. Okay? That's standard. I mean, I've been around a district a long time, far before you and all that. So the way you look good is you just get 3 positions you don't fill, and that number is a number that you got at the end of the year. That's one. Sure. The other one is you take stuff like Title I money that's supposed to be spent on this year's kids, and you rat hole it until June when it's not even available for the kids that earned it to you, and you don't spend it. And so then you have the surplus which you carry over. So in my case, if I'm auditing the budget, I don't want to see just the reports. I want to see the significance of the fact that they haven't spent the money they should have versus the significance of the fact that they spent more money than they should have. Sure. Both of those are interesting facts, and I don't think what you're telling me is going to give me that data.
Well, if you remember back to the last board, I'm sorry.
No, I said okay. I wanted to move it on.
If you remember back to the last board meeting, part of the financial packet that we gave you, there was at least a half-page area there that essentially, before you got the information, that area would be filled in with comments, both why they're underspent and why they're overspent.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, anyway. Dr. Evans?
Just to follow up on what Mr. Barrera and Mr. DeBeck said, just using an example, let's say the transportation budget is $43 million for the year.
43.1.
Is it what?
43.1.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good. We're guessing.
Again.
Okay.
Now he's just showing
But anyway, the point being that obviously that's not spent evenly through the year. And so it would be helpful, for example, if it said in July we expect to spend $0.5 million and in August $0.6, but then in September 4.6. So we're not just doing this thing of, well, we haven't spent all of our money yet, but that it's in line with what would have been expected based on not divided into 12, not divided into quarters, but so we can really analyze whether we're on track.
Okay. Dr. Evans, I think that's the difference with the operationalized meetings, is to really turn it into no longer is it a finance forecast, it's an operational forecast.
Okay.
That's
fair enough.
Any other comments? Please vote.
Good.
We got to file it anyway. We can't vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It passes 5-0. The next item is Operation Expectations, OE6.
Thank you, Madam President. OE6 you have copies of. We are in compliance with OEC with one exception. As you saw on the report, that one exception has to do with splitting contracts. That's something that we are working very hard on. I think that it's something that we have made great strides in correcting. One of the real issues here, as you saw from James's report, is that we have had a number of, in the past, departments that had their own procurement programs, and so that made it very difficult for us to monitor. With the procurement coming in-house now, where we have one procurement officer, I'm very comfortable in telling you that this is in the process of being corrected, and I feel real good about the steps that James and his staff and Art have taken to address this. So I would recommend it to for your approval. Quite frankly, I think you could today say that we are in compliance, but we are compliant. I think we're in compliance with that small exception. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. I think we've made a lot of progress in this area, and I think that I know I'm proud of it, and I hope you are too.
I did move approval and second. I did send some comments, some questions, and I did get the responses for those questions. I do still have some concerns about, and I asked about the facility and the maintenance debt and how that was unreported in the actual document. And I think for clarity, we need to be able to show that in the document. The other item that I asked was in section 6.3, I request evidence of solicitations and announcements. And they mentioned two papers, the Daily Transcript and the Voice and Viewpoint. And I know this was an effort, thank you very much, outreach to various communities. But there were still, I guess my concern is that there are local papers, and I mean La Prensa was not mentioned. The item from the Voice and Viewpoint was old. It was from Prop MM. So I'm just hoping that as we move forward in Prop S, that we are reaching more of those small, at least the ones that are in the communities, outreach. La Prensa, the Asian business paper, all of those should be listed and not just the Viewpoint and the Transcript. And I hope the staff will take note of that. Okay, thank you.
Well, can I comment on that?
On my comment?
Yeah.
Always.
Okay. The entire construction community uses a single document for their source of bid information, and that document is the Daily Transcript. There isn't one construction firm that I know in this county, Asian American or African American or not, that doesn't go there, because they have not only plans but specifications for public and private contracts. So if you list a project with the Daily Transcript, which is the paper of record, that's adequate notice to the entire community of construction people. If you want to spread that out just because, then you have to say, okay, we don't want to play favorites on community newspapers. It might be that we'll also have to include the general newspaper in the community, the Union Tribune as well, because all of these are legal notices. The law says you have to do one legal notice. It happens to be traditional in the San Diego building community, and you ask any single contractor if they ever look at the posting in the daily transcript, and they'll say absolutely. And so do the unions, and so does everybody else that's interested in construction. So it's really is a waste of money to bid to put it all over the place. And unless you want it all over the place, in that case, you have to include all the people that distribute news. And while you can put a legal notice in any one of those papers alone, but the chances of it being read by construction is pretty rare, and the chances it will be read in the transcript is very high.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out one thing, and this is not fair necessarily in terms of your preparation of this report, but since that time in our August meeting of our coherent governance, we were adding on to this particular operational expectation, and I don't have the exact quote right in front of me, but it had to do with what we were discussing, which was basically monthly reports and budget accountability. It had to do with doing it, department by department and school by school. But it was an operational thing.
Right. And once you get that approved and adopted, the next report that comes back to you will have that component included in it.
Right. It's a draft, and we're going to be reviewing it next week. But I just wanted to make sure that's the other component.
Any other comments or questions?
Call for the question.
Question, it says with noted exception.
That noted exception again had to do with the splitting of those contracts.
Okay.
We just, like I said, we could say to you, yes, we are in compliance, and today we believe we are. But when we put this together as a report to you, quite frankly, Art was just putting his department together, and so we thought this would be more transparent.
Okay,
we don't mind it being this way.
That's fine.
All right.
We still got to vote, Richard.
Okay, it passes 5-0. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Action by the Board of Education for this Superintendent's consent agenda. At this point, agenda means that all the items appearing in Section I are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the Board of Superintendent requests that any items be removed from the consent agenda and voted on separately. Generally, consent items are matters which members of the Board and Superintendent concur are routine in nature and should be acted upon in one motion to conserve time and permit focus on other than routine matters. In addition to items I-18, I-19, I-43, and I-67, which were pulled by staff, Mrs. Ward, are there any other changes to the consent agenda?
I'm over approval of the consent agenda except for those items which public have signed up to speak and board members have individually pulled.
Okay. All right. Board members, can we find out which one? Because we have some speakers, but if the item is not pulled, they don't want to speak. And so I'm pulling items I-31, 36, 50, and 61. Anybody else pulling any items?
You said 31. That you had staff pulled items. Would you
repeat those so we can...
The staff items?
The staff items is I-18.
No, yours.
Okay, let me do staffs first for John.
Okay. But they're already in here. All right.
I-18, I-19, 143, and 67.
Okay, those
the
are...
items that I pulled is 36, 50, and 61.
61.
Wait a minute. You didn't pull 31.
I pulled 36, 50, and 61. Are there any other items to be pulled?
I'm sorry, what is that? I'm searching for the item with the SELPA, the agreement, the ratification of the charter schools that want to go into their own
charter school that want to move into their special education.
SELPA.
Hold on a second. Let's see if I... 15?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Any other item? So the exception items 15, 36, 50, and 61. There are no other items pulled, so this group here doesn't want to speak. So 41 and 49 has speakers. So we will pull items 15, 36, 41, 49, 50, and 61. Can I get a motion for the other items?
I already did, but I'll move it again.
Second. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. 41. Don't have to speak either. I'm sorry. Didn't catch that in time.
Okay, we'll vote again then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Moved again. Okay. So the only
Okay,
items
why don't
are
we just-
15, 36, and 50, and 61.
15, 36,
50, and 61.
Okay.
And approving all others.
We're approving all others. So
All
moved.
others. Okay.
Can we have a
moved,
second?
seconded.
And revote it?
And
Ms.
revote.
Ward?
Okay, second. 15, 36,
Okay.
and 61.
And I pulled 36. I pulled 36. Okay.
So they're gone. Except
Phew, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much for waiting. Now, for those who are for items 15, 16, 15, 36, 50, and 16, we'll take those up with item 15 being first.
Yes. My question on item 15, and I understand everything that's involved
we
here.
have a policy that we move and second, and then we discuss. You're just asking questions?
Yeah.
Is that the way we operate?
Well, we're going on to item number 15.
I know, but what I'm saying is, as I remember, we operate by Robert's rules. Robert's rules say you have a motion and a second and a discussion. If we're going to just have a discussion before we have a motion and a second, then we're violating Robert's rules. And I don't mind if that's what the board wants, but that's the way it works.
I'll move approval.
For purpose of discussion, I second it.
Moving second. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry, maybe Tony or Moises. The question that I have is these charter schools in joining a different SELPA outside of San Diego Unified. I assume we're doing it because it's going to save them money. They're not going to spend as much money as they would, being part of our SELPA. Correct? I mean, is that the primary incentive for them to do?
I think for that case, it might make sense for the people who there's a representative or two to speak on that. I can talk about some other things, but they could certainly speak on that particular matter.
My question boils down to if they can provide the same level of services to their students for less money, that's great. More power to you. I just want to have assurance that you're going to provide the same level of service, that we're not going to see a reduction in service to special education students. So I don't know if Tim or somebody.
You need to ask the people that are doing this.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
My name is Cindy Atlas, and I'm the executive director for the charter schools that have left the district. As a former director of special education for San Diego Unified, I'm very, very aware of what's required to provide services for special ed students. So therefore, I will not lessen or allow the services to lessen for the students who are in the charter schools that have left the district.
Okay.
I just know it because I used to be director in this district.
Yeah.
So I know what's required.
Yeah. And what's the level of I appreciate your statement, but what's the level of confidence that you can give us as a board to let us
Well, number one, we're under El Dorado SELPA, so El Dorado SELPA watches us carefully to what we're doing. I'm very aware of being under compliance when I was a director in special education for the district for 2.5 years with a federal monitor, state monitor, so I will not allow the schools to be out of compliance. I don't know what more assurance I can give you other than my past history.
Okay.
And my knowledge.
When were you director of special ed?
I was director of special education from 2000 to 2002, and before that I was program manager, and before that I was resource teacher, and before that I was resource specialist. I was in the district for 20 years. So I really don't know what more assurance I can give you other than I understand special education. I've been in special education close to 40 years, so I truly know what it takes to provide services. And for an example, for this current school year, I have already hired staff for the charter schools in conjunction with the directors and principals of the charter schools to provide every possible service that all students had. So I went through every IEP that a student had, an individual education program plan, and looked at every service, and I made sure that all those services were intact as far as what the district had provided previously. So I matched them equal to equal, and including those students who had a 1-on-1 aid on their IEP. So I think we've provided it all. Anything that comes up, any new students that walk in the door, we are providing special ed services to those students. We have not turned a single student away.
Great.
Is your name and information on file? Because I know during the year when normally people have concerns about special ed, I was telling them to call the charter office of the charter school, so we know how to reach her when we get those concerns.
So the charter. I don't understand
the
your
staff
question.
not behind you. The question.
Yes, I will make sure they have my name and number.
School year, if people come to me and they have concerns about a charter school, I usually know where to refer them to. And I think that the concern right now is that the SEPA is so far away.
Right.
That if there are concerns, then where are they directed to, so we know who to hold accountable for those.
Okay. I will make sure they have my name and number and email. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Well. The measure for me would be, I believe that you intend to do equity. I think the issue for me would be, is the population of the charter schools that are in this position, do they have the same proportion of special ed kids as the rest of the school population, or do they not? Let's say that there's an adverse selection of kids based on the fact that there's, you shake your head, I agree that you don't want to, but let's say that the evidence shows that all these 9 schools have, let's say, less than 5%, and the district as a whole has 20% special ed. What would that mean to you?
That would mean that there was a problem in identifying students. The average across the United States is 10%. We have representatives here from Gompers. Gompers is actually at 18%.
I understand. Okay, so the next question would be, let's say I'm a parent of a kid with I call it what do they call it? That anyway, he's deaf. It's a low incidence. That's the one word I was searching for. So in the district, the services provided for low incidence happen to be mainstreams which require individual sign language support or some kind of special support. If that was in their IEP and they went to any of these schools, they would continue to do that at their expense, not ours.
At the charter school's expense.
Yeah,
correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So the services would then. Now then, should that not happen, or should there be a conflict between the parent and the charter schools, and they file a complaint for resolution, which is usually mediated, and there's expenses involved with representatives and all that, the charter schools would still be the people that had to bear the cost of that representation or that argument of the mediation between the groups, right?
Correct.
And the SELPA would be the place that it happened. Which means that the parent would have to go to El Dorado to get it?
No.
Well, then,
to get the services? No.
No. The
mediation?
Yeah.
No, it would be held here. The mediation. Well, number one, we have an attorney that we've have as part of our consortium of charter schools, our JPA. We've hired an attorney for just those purposes, if that came to be, which I hope it won't. But it's always held where the student is. You don't go to the SELPA.
That basically, you're saying that El Dorado, even though they're remote to us, because that's a long way from here, it's like Shasta County. It's, you could almost throw a rock into Oregon. That's true.
Okay.
I've been there.
Okay.
So then they're representing all the parents that are in special ed in the charter schools in San Diego, and they are the accountable body.
Right. The ultimate accountable body, yes.
And we've already done this with other charters, so I can say no. But the question I have is still, that's really a strange arrangement, isn't it? Well, I'll say that to the public, not to you.
The El Dorado Charter was designed for charter schools specifically who could not work out differences with their districts, and they needed a SELPA. In California, special ed money has to flow through a SELPA, and that's why SELPAs were geographically designed in 1957.
Well,
Okay?
the charters could make their own SELPA if they wanted to, couldn't they?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay, well,
You couldn't do that. But let me give you an example, Mr. Tabak, that Charter School of San Diego had a mediation this past, I believe it was in June, and El Dorado representatives, the SELPA director and the executive director of El Dorado came down and worked on the mediation with Charter School of San Diego here in San Diego. So no one went up to El Dorado.
it's got to be cheaper, huh?
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Can't deny it. We got a
It was
president.
approved at the state level, Catherine.
To approve for the SELPA.
All right. Thank you very much, staff. Appreciate that. Item I-36 I pulled. I pulled it only to look at the very first item on the list there, which is peer tutoring. And we have a speaker on this, I think, as well. Yes, Sally Smith. Hi, Sally.
Hi. I'm Sally Smith, 3551 Lord Street, San Diego. I would like you to please reject the ICC recommendation, as this last-minute request is inappropriate. The course is Peer Tutors for Special Education Students. This is just repeating a failed course that was eliminated by the trustees. Students selected their courses in March, so why is Claremont just now putting this course on the agenda? That tells me that no student selected this course. It wasn't on their articulation. Peer tutoring was eliminated due to problems. It didn't work with students that are not special needs students. Trained professional educators are needed, not some on-the-job training pilot program. This course was lumped in with several others, so it would be approved. This sets a poor precedence to add a course in the week that school starts. Why doesn't this school add a German course or another course instead of this course in which students are warehoused just to make the master schedule work? SCPA added this course. It's a performing arts focused school. This course needs more scrutiny, as it is one of the classes that can be abused in dumping students into. Please reject that recommendation.
Gavel for a minute here. I would move approval to approve this item except for HS1.
I make a motion to approve it in its entirety.
Well,
Second.
Okay, so
Second.
Now we get to speak to it.
Yeah.
Which motion is on the floor?
Well, mine didn't pass because I don't have a second, but they
Yeah, but this is to approve it in its entirety. So.
Well, I would speak to it first, and again, I think that the courses that we put on here have to be vetted out, and we've had courses similar to this before that say that students are peer tutoring other students, and what does that really mean? And so certainly our students are in school to learn. There's nothing wrong with helping another student in the class if they're actually, just sharing information, but for that to be an elective course for a student to take, that they're tutoring another student, or peer tutoring, that is, I don't think it's appropriate time use for our students. It's not their job to take a course that would fully, say that they're going to be tutoring another child. So that's my problem with that, Mr. DeBeck.
Well, we have courses of, pre-teaching courses. We have courses for kids who are interested in teaching, and even clubs like that. So that's not. I wouldn't object to this on the content side, because what you're doing is teaching content of how to work with other kids and meet their needs, which I think is an appropriate kind of content. But the problem I have is calling it a pilot and not having any evaluation criteria, which is the piece of all of these that drives me crazy. See, we requested to conduct a pilot. What happens is you could request to conduct a pilot, and then it stays in the schedule ever and gone, and nobody ever says, did it work? So what you need to do when you approve a pilot is understand what the outcome that must occur for it to be continued. That's not here for any of these. And see, every single one of them says request to conduct pilot, because that's the way it's done. What you do is request a pilot and then never request anything else and just keep doing it.
Okay. Dr. Greer?
My question is quick and simple. How many of these courses that are on here are A to G certified? We're getting ready to try to implement an A to G curriculum. And so my question is, of these courses, how many of these are A to G certified courses?
I don't know the exact number. A number of them are, but it indicates whether they are, because they say elective. If they're not, if they're not crossed off as an elective. I would say to you that ICC has been one of my largest frustrations for the last year, because we at one point in time said in February that would be the last date that we would approve a course and bring it to you as a board. I take responsibility for this today because this was done in June, again, not as part of what they were told. And my understanding is it's traditional that we kind of always make these exceptions. I would say to you, I have no problem at all about removing HS1, but do know that you will not get another request from ICC except in December, which will be all inclusive of a standard course of study, and every one of those courses are going to be looked at in regards to A to G. These courses can no longer continue to be brought forward. Now, I will tell you, this was a process that was approved by the board. The process is probably better than any process I've ever seen in a district for approving courses. It has just gotten totally out of hand.
Well, I hear what Chuck is saying, but I can tell you, with what you've done as a board and you've moved towards A to G curriculum, my recommendation to you would be to approve any that are A to G certified, and the rest of them, I just don't know. I just don't know how trying to move to an A to G curriculum and getting our vocational technical courses certified and doing what we need to do. Quite frankly, we need to be cutting back down on the number of courses that are offering, not expand them.
You look at every one of these and it says CTE and ROP. This has to do with job-related instruction. I also agree with Terry on the concept, if you're going to play the game of every course that's offered in the school district must be A to G, then we're going to do away with a lot of courses.
Get them certified.
No, because there's a lot of courses that never could be certified that still are required for instruction. You couldn't graduate with just A to G requirements. So the issue is this a practical thing for us to say that unless a course is A to G certifiable, that we will not approve it? I don't agree with that policy.
No, it's part of our
I believe that, and the reason why these have the CTE ROP is a strategic reason. I'm not going to get into how that could get messed up, because I could have arguments with those folks too. But the problem is that these are shown as CTE ROP supported. That means there's probably ROP money going to them. That means there's probably finances that are going to pay, for example, for the peer tutors someday. I had peer tutors in my classes at Claremont. Now it's 35 years ago. Paid peer tutors. Okay, it was funded by California Vocational Ed Funds, and the kids got paid to help other kids. This isn't that, but this could be the next.
Yes, it is.
It is too.
It is too.
No, it's just an elective.
No, look down lower,
ROP,
right
down
there.
at the bottom.
No, it's not. You have X's beside what they are.
Oh, okay.
Right.
If you look,
This is not a CTR.
right.
You mean the listing there is just a choice, a multiple
Right,
choice?
and then you put an X beside the one that it.
Okay, so then this is an elective. Okay, well, it's still the argument still would hold that are we going to approve only courses that meet A to G requirements? I don't think that's
As part of our multiple pathways,
I still would
of course,
say
we will not.
I would be more inclined to support one if it had a California technical ed support. So I can see the reason, but I'm not going to vote against these. These are site-initiated courses, but I do want them evaluated.
Any other comments?
Well, I have one comment, which is we talk about the A to G requirements, and yet as I'm going towards the end of the list, there are several middle school courses, which don't necessarily fall into the A to G, non-A to G category.
These are all 9 to 12. That I can read.
This is my frustration. Middle schools actually, before they can have students take any elective, have to have that course approved by the board, and it is an elective. So that's the reason the middle school courses actually get on here, because everything has to be approved in order to get a number.
I can say to the board, you want to prove these, okay, that's all right. This has to be given absolute top priority by the staff and the board looking at all this. Our curriculum in this district, depending on where you live and your zip code, is as varied and different, and there is no uniformity of rigor across this district in our schools, and that just has to stop.
Well, I don't understand, Dr. Greer, and you know that what this is doing in front of us, given the direction that the board has given you, if this is not in concert with A to G, and I agree, Mr. DeBeck, that not everything actually, like PE is not A to G. We have courses in here, and I think that has to be something that's going to evolve as we go through A to G. But what are all these courses doing on here? How did this get out of your control?
I think basically it was part of a committee that has been put together, and you've got a lot of people on it. It's a process that, frankly, no one wants to stand up and say no to. Now that's because you're talking about empowering people and letting it bubble up from the school level, and I just think that my suggestion is...
as the maker of the motion...
my suggestion is like, Chuck, approve it tonight, but then let's get serious about getting this back under control.
And I don't have any problem at all about taking...
No, I second it, so it has to be voted on. Yeah.
Question. Are these... We're on the first day of school. Are these classes that are starting today?
They are. And that's the reason I'm sitting here waffling on you. Yes.
Right. And the schedule's made, and the teachers hired for the classes. And
that's the reason I got angry when I got this list come July.
Right. So we're being asked to approve something that's already been set up and is rolling out today.
What was the date on which... Didn't we approve A to G back in, what was it, May or June?
It was June.
June. Okay, so this committee has been working on this process for how long in advance of that?
I've been working on it since May or June. What we're going to bring back to you is we're going to come back to you with a totally different ICC setup, not the process necessarily. We're actually starting this week, and not this week, next week, going through that entire standard course of study. We're going to pull every course out of there that doesn't look like that it can be implemented across
we are where we are. So your recommendation with regard to the first day of school and all of these classes, do you recommend that we turn this down? Would that help you accomplish what you want to do?
That's the reason I'm standing up here taking this information, because I said to my staff, every time I come forward to this, I feel bad about it, but it's done, but the students have already been enrolled in these courses. So at this point in time, to go back and change that is a disservice to them. We're just not going to let this happen again, because there will not be any other courses coming to you after January of this next year.
So if we were to approve it on the basis of this is that this course is approved for this one time only and not necessarily to renew?
Well, and I think Sally's got a good point. I mean, in the fact that she and I have discussed this before, we do know, and I've just been told, and I think her comments were before, that maybe these courses aren't really what they're supposed to be. So we need to go in and take a look at and find out what is actually happening. I'm not saying about this particular school or particular course, but we do know that in the past some of these courses haven't always...
Yeah, I don't worry so much about the online courses because they are accredited by the Western Association of Colleges and Schools. But there's some of these other courses, as been pointed out, the tutoring courses, we just need to get a better handle on. We will.
Right. And so, again, if you want to pull that one off, I think it's fine. Otherwise, we put it as a 1 year.
Well, I would still say that we should pull it off, and it is that I would prefer for a student to be in a class that is for that student academic, than to have that student spend a whole year tutoring someone else or doing something. We don't know what they're going to be doing.
And there's probably a very small number of students involved in this.
All right. So I the motion on the floor is to approve all of them as is listed. If there's no more discussion, We've heard lots of comments. No more comments, please vote. Okay. That fails 3-2. So that motion failed. Is there another motion on the table for that item?
Yeah, so then I would move that we approve all the courses with the exception of the PO tutoring courses.
And I would like to add that they're just approved for this current semester or year, and there's nothing attached to that suggests that we approve it on an ongoing basis, a one-time thing, that they would have to come before us again or whatever.
Okay. I guess we're all commenting. But
okay, he made a motion.
So I'm just saying that as long my motion is, I second that, and just I'd like to add
now
that.
We're commenting. Okay.
No, I'd like to add. My motion was to add to the motion that we state specifically this is a one-time approval only.
So now we have John Muir, which is a magnet school, which is also asking for different kind of what's a anyway, there's a new Paideia program, and they're trying to put in some kinds of elements of that. And we're saying, well, we don't agree with that because, there isn't any, unless it's an A to G or unless we approve it, which we don't even know if it fits into their theme or not.
Well, quite frankly, Paideia is not a course. Paideia is a teaching methodology.
Yeah, but I mean, let me put it this way. They've been using something out there that makes them a success. Okay, and now they're saying, we want to include this globally speaking course, which sounds kind of like an interesting course that fits their model. They're like this little test place, a little place where they're testing the way to teach, how to do stuff. They're pretty innovative out there. So then to have us micromanaging John Muir's request for courses seems patently ridiculous since they're successful in the first place.
Let me restate the motion. The motion is to approve all the courses except HS1, and the other courses that we approve are only approved for this year.
Right.
But that would mean that one would be approved only for this year.
They could come back.
They could come back.
But they're all going to come back. He's going to bring the whole package back in December.
Once they've gone through their process. So
Correct.
Hopefully that'll give you some teeth.
And do all of them have to report on the results of their pilot or not?
Correct.
I didn't hear that.
Well, we're telling you they do.
You calling the question?
Well, I guess to request
So
it
it's
be
implied
renewed.
that every pilot will have a predetermined set of objectives, not we did it last year, but a predetermined set of objectives that they should meet for renewal? Or is it going to be, we conducted a pilot, we set up a course called Global Speaking, and the kids like it, and the teachers like it.
The burden on them is to prove that it should be approved.
We'll call for the question.
And I would say, too, we shouldn't have necessarily pilots. The reason this district went to pilots originally was because if we called it a pilot, we didn't have to provide the textbooks or the materials for the course.
Okay, thank you.
So,
please vote.
That's not why we did it. We did it to prove what
John,
we're doing.
please vote. Debate.
I'll abstain.
Okay.
Do whatever the board wants.
It went away.
Okay. That passes 4-4. John said he's abstaining.
The rules say,
Okay.
the rules say that I have to. The majority rules said it's passed, but I just didn't.
The other item, next item that was pulled, I pulled it, which is item 50. And in this particular item, this is about the CLAD waiver for our career tech education people. And in the questions that I asked, and we got the responses back, each year we get a list of people, and it just started last year, that are part of the career tech ROP program and JROTC program that do not have their CLADs, and this is for CLAD waivers. And last year, I think I asked a question as to when these courses are going to be offered so we can get these people taken care of. What we found out is that some of the names on this year's list was on last year's list, and the concern that I have is that these staff members should be giving a timeline in which they should get this CLAD waiver. I don't think that we should be approving them every year. So I'm willing to pass this, but I think, and I got a note back today that said that there used to be a consent to teach that came out of HR department, which indicated timelining within the next 2 academic years. This consent to teach was dropped some time ago, and it should be implemented. And I don't know what the consent to teach is, but certainly I would like for us to...
It was basically, President Jackson, it was an understanding, but just describing what you said, that if we ask for a waiver, we're going to give you a time certain. We're going to give you 2 years to clear that waiver, and if you don't, after that, we will not ask for another waiver, and you will not be certified to teach.
Well,
that's what that was, and it was dropped because some people it took longer than 2 years.
Well, it's contradictory. Excuse me, may I? Mm-hmm. It's contradictory to the credentialing of teachers in designated subjects. The law says that you can be a qualified teacher in a designated subject based on experience you've held in a trade or in another area. For example, you could teach carpentry if you're a journeyman carpenter in 7 years and you don't have to have a degree. Okay? Now then, that's how you get people that are hands-on.
Okay, John.
Well, okay. So I'm still trying to explain the rules. If you don't want me to, forget it.
Well, I was just going to say that last March is when this changed. That's when it came before us last year, and I asked the question, and it was last March when the state came out and said that even though that was the criteria, now those people are required to have CLAD as well.
I don't claim the state knows what it's doing. Okay? If you do, that's fine with you. But I don't agree because I believe that it's contradictory to the concept of the idea of a competent person in a trade providing instruction. Okay? Now, if you say that we'll never hire another person to teach carpentry or to teach electrical or to teach any of the other subjects that we give credit for, unless they have a degree, you might as well shut the program down and say goodbye to all the folks.
Well, I don't
because you're not going to be able to recruit the people that can do this work.
Okay. I move approval of item 50.
Okay.
Need a second.
Second.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're giving the waiver. Yes.
We're giving the waiver, but again, I want to come back to the staff and say that we need to put something in place so we're not giving these waivers every single year to the same people.
That wasn't in the motion.
I know it wasn't, but I'm making that statement to the staff. I'm not against the motion.
That's your statement.
I'm not against giving the waivers this year, but these people need to get their CLAD credential. Okay, it passes 5-0.
Everything?
No, we got one more, 61. And on 61, I can't support it. 61, I think this is a SharePoint for Prop S, and I think that there are some other things that this is going to be $95,000 for 6 months, which means it's close to $200,000 for a whole year worth of services. If I'm reading this correctly, and I think that we need to have more explanation on this other than what is written here. So I can't support it.
The explanation's walking to the podium.
Yeah, I know it says en route to me today. So.
Good evening.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
SharePoint 360 addresses a strategic goal that that was approved for this year. It's a tool that provides information to the community on the status of projects, and it's a web-based application that takes the data out of our Primavera database as well as out of our PeopleSoft database, puts it into a digital format, and presents it as a dashboard on our internet. So people throughout the district, the ICOC, the board members, ourselves can see exactly what projects we're working on, what the progress is, whether they're in trouble or not. We also already own SharePoint, so this is not a brand new application to us that we're going to have to create from the bottom up. Daryl's got applications in SharePoint already, so this is a module that adds onto it.
So why is it so much?
Well, because we have to have it installed, we've got to set up the links between our databases, and get it working. Now, this is not a persistent relationship with a vendor that's going to be here for years and years. This is a one-time visit. They install the software and they leave.
Okay, because that's my question, because it was $95,000, and it was going to happen every 6 months, because it said this was terminating March 8, 2010. And so that indicated to me this is a 6-month contract, but if this is not, this is a one-time thing, then...
This is a one-time development work. We're actually buying a module from them that is being installed on our server. They've developed that module and they're customizing it for us, but we will own it when we're done with this.
Okay, so it's just a one-time payment. Okay.
Move approval.
This is something you'll be able to use over the next 16 years. There'll be updates of it, but it'll really show people where the money's going.
When it says 6-month term,
16 years. Dr. Greer.
Well, I said it'll have to be. It'll have to be
16 years.
We'll be using computers.
Not like little hyperbole
it'll
there.
have to be.
I think we have a motion on the floor to approve this.
We have,
motion
yeah,
and second. Please vote. Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Okay,
Darryl,
John.
do you think this software will be
What's the
good in
maintenance
16
cost
years?
you estimate to keep it up? You said it's one time. I've never had one time that didn't require servicing and modification. So like if you buy a piece of software, you either have to train people to use it, or you have to have some kind of upgrades to bring it up to date.
Typically, we budget about 20% of the initial purchase price.
So basically, to be honest, we're saying $95,000 plus maybe an annual maintenance cost of so much, which isn't in this report. I'm still voting for it, but I mean, I think I ought to be upfront about it.
Is this, I had a question, Stu, Darryl, whomever. Is this something that's going to make information more accessible to the public?
This is actually designed in a fashion that is very public friendly. A lot of times we bring very detailed reports to this board, but this actually is kind of more visual. They call it a dashboard. It's more like scales, thermometers, things like that tell you what's been done.
Okay.
And the progress
I think
made towards the project.
That's terrific, because that was the spirit of Proposition S campaign to begin with, so I'm glid to see that concepts continue.
That passes 5-0. Do we have any more public speakers, Mrs. Ward? Okay, if that's not it, then we'll adjourn and we'll recess for 5 minutes and be upstairs for board member debriefing.
5 minutes to 8. What America?
It's early for us.